find the terminal.
Welcome. Your compatibility really is good.
Billy de Montbel. Call sign Knox, assault operator. Trained by Havoc, Knox is a seasoned mercenary with rich experience. As a man of few words who prefers to operate independently, his collaboration with GTI is a product of necessity rather than a choice. Specializing in information disruption with proficiency in various combat techniques, he excels in stealth operations. Like a cold dagger, he exposes vulnerabilities in enemy defenses to strike at their throats. Knox's tactical equipment, Silent Assault, consists of an information jammer and sonic jammer. When activated, the disruptors emit sonic interference waves, minimizing Knox's sound propagation and the alert range of enemies. While this interference is in effect, enemy recon tools are unable to pinpoint Knox's exact location.
Allied forces are engaging at objective level.
Man's fear of darkness is imprinted in our genes. In the absence of light, we become prey, hunted by nameless dangers and unknown fears.
Where do you think Havoc's war went?
Dead, probably.
Then who's paying their soldiers? Who's there?
We try to seek solace by the faint light of fire.
Where is that noise from?
But a deal was made with the dark. And the darkness became a weapon. There's no waiting for the protection of dawn. A winner must be crowned tonight.
Hostiles detected.
Late. Skynet has been destroyed.
No. Skynet's been upgraded.
Zoya, what's going on?
Alexei! Come on, anyone, do you copy? Nox, confirm your position. The deal is clear. I'll help you remove your relink and escape Havoc. But first, you infiltrate the Skynet terminal and restore our comms. Respond immediately.
I'm in position.
resist. It resists.
Get out of my head!
Find him! Go!
Let's spread a little panic.
We've got you surrounded! Enemy over here!
What's your status? Have you found the terminal?
We've been set up. The server room's empty.
I was right. You're still the best. I knew you'd come back. But here's the truth. It's not Havoc that needs you. It's you that needs Havoc. We are the future.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome into the Delta Force Global League. It's finally here, Season 1 EU Warfare Finals. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Goj, and I'm excited to be back with you with a brand new experience. It's esports time, folks, and it's the Delta Force ecosystem. This has been a ton of fun to watch the lead up to this process. The finals, though, on broadcast, finally here. Really pumped about this one. Before we jump into it, I've got to give you the normal reminders, which the main one is that you've got to get involved with Delta Force right now. You know it. You know how to do it. We are live on every platform as well, but you can get the game on every single platform. It's all down below. The link, of course, you can head over to the official launcher, but also you can get it on Steam, Epic Games Store, and now on mobile. So go check out Delta Force on all the different ways that you can play. Now, today we're going to be moving quickly because we've got esports to get to. So I want to bring in my amazing co-host and caster for the day, Spider Tiff, the expert in Delta Force. Tiff, it's so good to have you back yet again for another show here in the booth, but this one is going to look very different from the last couple because it is time for some esports.
It really is. I love that we've had so much fun highlighting our creators throughout the past week, but anytime you get to dive into some high octane, aggressive gameplay and see how these people are going to basically sweat it all out, I want to see who's going to come out on top and be able to claim the first ever victory, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There was a Season 0 a little bit later into the year last year, but this is the first official season. This is kind of the tone setter for what esports and Delta Force can look like, and we're starting with Warfare, and we're starting with our European region. So let's take a look at what the format for the day is. This is going to be very sweaty. That is the purpose of it. This is truly esports. Now, here's a quick look at that format graphic. There's a lot on here, but the simple fact of the matter was that we had online qualifiers for this event. It's esports after all. No invites. You had to earn your spot. Now, the week 1 qualified players, that's a total of 5 teams of 4, have all come together to form Team Alpha. That's kind of their faction for the day. On the other side, it's going to be the week 2 qualified players. Same amount of people, 5 squads in total forming Team Bravo. They're facing off in a 20v20 warfare esports competition. Gonna be a ton of fun. We're gonna be playing on trench lines. Each team's gonna attack and defend, and then we're going to crack, the tried and true classic when it comes to Delta Force. Each team's attacking and defending. Now, the goal is literally just win, which is the best part. Some score is important, sure, but the actual win condition for the day for Team Alpha or Team Bravo is just win the map. If you have a better record than your opponents, if you win 3 of our 4 maps that we played, you win this entire competition. Now, we've got some tiebreakers if it does go 2-2, and then finally there's some side objectives if you want to go for those. There's some extra prizing for our individual top slayer, individual top medic, and then our MVP squad, who is going to be the team that gets the most score as a team of 4. Now, let's take a look at the pricing and see what you can earn today, because of course we've got some cash on the line. It wouldn't be esports without it. $4,000 to the winning team, Team Alpha or Team Bravo, split amongst the players. And then here are our individual side quest rewards, our side objectives: $500 for the MVP squad, split between those four, $300 for the individual with the most kills, and $300 for the most rescues. So that's the breakdown for the day. It's going to be a great one. And I want to take a look at some of our teams, Tiff, and let you talk them up a little bit, because yes, this is esports. Yes, we've never seen some of these players, but we do know a few of them.
I mean, once you start on the ground floor of esports and you kind of build up all of these stories, we expect teams to completely take us off guard. Now, granted, throughout the past couple of days, you may have gotten more familiar with some of our teams, like the boys down there in the bottom right. You've got John DeBomb, Be Quiet, Yellow Love, and Tilia. Now, I've been perusing a lot of their streams and seeing how they've been prepping for this, and John DeBomb in particular was basically just like, this is going to be insanely chaotic, and our job is just to do good. It's like our first kind of iteration into that, but we want to perform well. Now, granted, the majority of our players, you already hyped them up, Goj. They're going to be sweaty. They're going to want to win. No one likes losing. Let's be real. But I think it's going to be pretty solid. However, Preep Walker, we had a lot of fun watching that TanoSSquaD up there on Team Alpha. Loves vehicles. We know he's going to be an absolute menace when it comes to adapting throughout, specifically on trench lines. And then I'm also looking for him to do some crazy things on Sector B when we get to Cracked.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we're going to have plenty of time to talk about all of these players when truly they get a chance to make a name for themselves on broadcast, on main stage. We're about to jump into the action. So let's talk a little bit about the maps again very quickly. Yes, we're starting in trench lines. This is going to be the daytime mode of trench lines. Of course, both teams will attack and then defend. And then we're going to be moving to Crack to do the same thing. You've only got 4 maps to prove yourself, but if you've watched any other Delta Force broadcast, you know in 4 maps, a lot can change and folks will definitely rise above the rest and become the cream of the crop. Now, I really enjoy this format. I'm excited to jump straight into it. And as per the usual, Delta Force always has rewards for you just tuning in. Our Twitch drops are still active here on the main broadcast. And I'm sure some of the streamers out there that are maybe watch partying this or just playing the game have them active as well. You can see them all down below me. It's very easy to kind of recognize. All you have to do is just make sure your Delta Force account is attached to your Twitch account, and that will redeem these rewards for you the longer that you watch. So hang out with us, you know, for as long as you can to be able to earn some of these rewards. And it obviously accumulates over the last couple days if you've been watching all of our broadcasts, because this is not the first broadcast of the week. We've had several shows leading up to this that you were mentioning, Tev, but it is our first esports broadcast of the week and of the year, which I'm very pumped about. So we're about to jump in. I think our teams are set. I think our lobby is ready. We are getting straight into the action because, folks, what else are you here for? You're here for the crazy action over there on trench lines. Now, Tiff, you and I have had a chance to cast over a ton of warfare and a ton of trench lines. I think today is going to look a little bit different because it's esports. It's going to be more sweaty. It's going to be more coordinated. I've seen the teams in Discord. They've been talking together as an entire Team Alpha and Team Bravo, working on some strategy. We've seen trench lines now 1,000 times. What do you expect for this first couple points here in trench lines? Kind of the difference that this map can make, and potentially B1 and B2 in particular.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. And in particular, I know a lot of our players have a lot of experience with trench lines, so I'm not necessarily too worried about those initial points. What I am curious about is what you were talking about when it came to the synergy between the teams working together and making sure that they stay cohesive on those initial pushes, whether it's by like sending a couple squads up for a flank, but it looks like we've got some early actions we drop into map 1.
Yeah, it's a great shot. I think some of these early points, point A usually is going to go to the attack fairly quickly, but you know, couple quick reminders for those that are maybe tuning in to Warfare and maybe esports for the first time. Obviously, our lives are top middle. We're going to be in our esports spectator today, so you're going to be able to see a lot of perspectives, and from these perspectives, you'll be able to tell if they're attacking or defending, and we'll continue to remind you of that until you get used to it, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. But yeah, this is point A usually isn't too terribly hard to take. B1, B2 can be the position where our attackers might struggle and lose a ton of their lives. You're basically looking to capture these points within 100 lives, because that's what you get back moving into the next point.
100%. And as you can see, we're kind of perusing around, but it's going to be Team Alpha, our week 1 teams that will be on the attacking side of things right off the rip. But I'm just kind of looking at maybe our operator compositions on the individual squads. I see a lot of hat claws. Take them all! Luna's perusing throughout.
Yeah, I think operator composition is going to be super valuable. I think Hakla is just extremely valuable with her ability to be able to track down opponents quickly, be able to find out if somebody's in cover, where you're intending to push. But so far, you're seeing Barbar and Alcatraz here on your screen down for this squad, but the team itself holding the point, trying to push up onto this very first point. I'm going to be honest, we're being stifled. Our attacking team is being stifled a bit more than I thought they would. 4 point A, a really strong defense setup quickly from Team Bravo that you had mentioned. You know, one of the things we're going to be looking out for is respawn beacons to try to set up new spawn points for the teams. You're obviously able to see all the different weapons that our players are deciding to choose, but right now it's an absolute slaughter of our attacking squad. They haven't even touched the point yet.
We are definitely just getting a full-blown montage of every time we change POVs, we just see it go completely down. So trying to take a different angle over here, maybe push a bit further, but it's all finding that LOS and just working together. Whatever works for you to make your move on over. Foxanahan on the screen. See what they can do before we check on in. We saw a lot of Valbatrow today thus far, and was looking really solid in some of our warfare modes earlier this week, but when you start to dive into esports, it's completely different.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think when we do our fun show matches with our streamers and content creators, you know, we put specific rules on the game to change it up, trying to even the playing field. Today, it's, hey, good luck. Go make a name for yourself. Right now, finally getting some action on point A. One of the things you saw was our attackers. They had a tank already. They have a tank set up kind of on the boundary. This is pretty standard for the attack to use that vehicle early. I'll be curious to see what the defense is able to do to be able to take that out quickly as point A is continuing to exchange hands as the defense is trying to make a late resurgence here and potentially push it back down, but well done thus far.
Just gets absolutely laid out. Artek, let's see what you can do before we pop on over. Hey, look, if we're going to be taking some of these angles, just trying to rip away as much as you can before we can get in there. But finally, we just want to make sure we can clear it out. I see a vehicle on the back line, which is going to have to be dealt with. Make sure that you've got your engineers or maybe your D-Wolves that are situated focused on that, because if you leave that up, it's going to wreak absolute havoc on you.
Yeah, and if you're taking a look at the top middle of your screen, green is always going to be the defense on that objective. So you can see that A is under capture right now of the attack. If that goes full red, we're going to see point B. This is the way this works in our spectator system. And we're seeing a D-Wolf operator here. Somebody wanted to move quickly around the map, and it's working out. Nice play here from Sadu Mazu to be able to swing around. The problem is there's just too many on this side of the map. Going to get cut down with little to no cover.
Into the vehicle for the back line, because you can see keeping that pressure straight onto him. Rips on out of it. Finally, a team that we were talking about, right? Yellow Love, Be Quiet, John DeBomb, Tilia. I was curious what they were going to bring to the table when they were warming up today. It was a lot of Hat Claw, a lot of Toxic, but Yellow Love is opting to go for the Luna, which I think is going to be really viable here today, especially if you want to keep those respawn beacons up in the mix and get your team back into the fray quicker.
Yeah, no, it's a great shout. Respawn beacons are going to be extremely valuable. We all know that smokes are massive when it comes to warfare competitions, being able to provide visual cover for your team. And so I assume Luna is there to help counteract that. She's very strong right now in the warfare ecosystem as well with that recon arrow. So if people are comfortable with her and there's enough on the team, you're going to have a ton of information. But finally, the attackers getting some ground on point A. Frankly, I think this is taking a hair longer than they would have liked. Down to 250 lives, so not going to be max lives moving into B, even if they capture it right now. But even still looking really strong. Here's a quick look at that tank. Yeah, we've got a problem on our hands. Vehicles in play, which means if you can't take them out quickly, especially, look at this far side tank. The actual tank in the background, I think that's the M1, is all the way in the back playing the outside, just peppering in. This is the tank we're talking about. This is going to make a massive difference for this team, and they also know we can't get that involved. If we get too close, this enemy team is organized enough to be able to take us out. And so they're kind of just peppering, creating some covering fire for their troops to be able to push up to the new point. Now, the attackers obviously have taken A, which means we are moving to B1, B2, and this is truly where the map trench lines and its namesake comes into true fashion. We are into the trenches, and these vehicles are going to have a hard time helping out.
We definitely need to see someone get in there right now. We saw SMG gameplay is going to be really critical here, especially in these winding trenches that are going to make things difficult. So making sure that even if you do want to have that vehicle in tow, that you have your repair kits handy to keep it just frying and flying, especially when you're putting pressure towards those bunkers in particular, because those enemies that are looking to defend are just going to bunker down in there.
That's a great shout.
Objective Bravo 1.
Good play right now, using these rolling hills as cover and just playing on the point. So far, the attackers are carrying their momentum forward, and if you've played Warfare, you know Warfare is such a momentum-based mode. If you've got momentum, the best thing you can do of yourself is fly at your opponents. Do not let them get restabilized and set up a defense, but these 2-point capture sectors sometimes are some of the hardest because you're constantly having to play tug of war. I was taking a look at some of the Discord comms, and one of our players, I think it was Sway, was basically saying, hey guys, if we take B1, can we not all swing on B2 and just give B1 up? Can we at least have somebody trying to play a bit of defense back on the point that we just captured, so it's not a constant back and forth? They were like, yeah, you're right. So I'm excited to see, you know, if some of those, it's looking like it's working out, actually. Some of those strategies where you've got a couple players left on B2 to make sure it doesn't get retaken. But I don't know that it was enough. B2 under threat. This is a constant tug of war that is on the side of the attackers right now pretty dramatically.
I mean, we've definitely seen this be a stalemate, and I know a lot of our teams were talking in particular, like, we need to watch B2 first. That's likely where the attackers go first, and hey, that's the first point on B here that's going to get captured. So as long as they can maintain that while simultaneously focusing on B1, you can get relaxed here through the trenches, navigating accordingly before maybe trying to take a sneak attack over the course.
Yeah, no, I think if you can find some angles here and clear at least some sightlines for your team, you should be able to push in. The problem is B2 is extremely tough. If the entire enemy team is defending B2, I think this is technically the command HQ. I think this is probably one of the hardest points on the map to actually take. But if they leave it wide open for you because they're swinging back on B1, well, let's trade. Why not? You can see our attacker here is crushing it, being able to push into B2 nearly single-handedly. Unfortunately, I spoke a hair too soon.
All right, back on over to Barbar here, and looks to be taking a lot of the same angles that we had just witnessed. That pathing is actually critical to getting over towards this area. So far, no real pressure onto this. Does have an enemy toxic that comes through and uses that ability, which kind of, hey, it's tough.
One of the things I was talking to some of our Warfare players, Tiff, and one of the things I was actually talking to content creator Enders, and one of the things he said that makes a good Warfare player is awareness, positioning, and making as few mistakes as possible. I think that's pretty critical when it comes to most esports,
and my life in general.
It's just kind of life. But in Warfare in particular, he had said something else. He was like, incredibly fast information processing is pretty much key, and he's exactly right. Look at this. Obviously, being able to make great plays over the top, pick up a triple kill is going to be massive for your team, but being able to process the amount of raw information you see happening on your screen during Warfare is a skill, and it's a skill that all of these players have been working on. Like, yeah, you might see a couple enemies and you know to shoot them, but do you know about the 36 other indicators that pop up from a tank shell, a grenade, you know, 5 people flanking you, your team's got a recon arrow out? I mean, there's a million things you got to be thinking about, and so because of that, I think these players truly have, you know, are showing their skill, but also are working on that skill and creating a craft in this very unique game style.
Sending on over. You've got the vehicle that is just stuffing itself above the trench lines, creating all of the chaos that we were talking about. This is possibly one of my favorite matches to kick things off for the Delta Force Global League over here on Europe Warfare, because this forces you to just get so granular and adapt straight into these things, and with just a gamer kind of just bouncing up out of the trench lines and still connecting onto the opposing team.
Yeah, Mr. Bunny TV, we saw him compete yesterday. Was one of our winners yesterday as well. And here's a quick a panel perspective of some of the different things happening. Obviously, I love this free cam shot of the trenches in particular because of these, you know, the visual cover that the trenches provide, an actual cover of being able to run through these trenches. This free cam shows us where the players are routing to. They look like little mice in a maze, just trying to figure out what is our entry point, how do we get onto this point and actually hold it when the enemy's trying to do the exact same. But some of the strategies popping out is, well, we need people on the flank, and unfortunately, if 7 people look at you on the flank, it is not going to work out.
Tech gonna be last alive for his squad. Teammates waiting to hit the respawn back on Inch. Chin does make it through, but immediately gets decimated. So just trying to get to full force on this individual squad as we kind of approach through no man's land. Sure, you've got a couple little map things you've got to work through, but it's Canyon that's going to be throwing down on the opposing side. Bison in hand, which I love for these close ranges.
So far, so good, frankly, for our defense. As you can tell, it's green on both. They've been tug-of-warring this entire time, but even if they end up losing this point, they're holding for quite some time. The lives are going to be crucial. You've got to remember, last point, point E, is a very difficult one unless your team has 15 guided missiles that they can all call in at once to clear the point, and even then, still can be extremely difficult. So the goal of our defense is, yes, to hold these points. I mean, we can hold them here, that's great, but it's truly to deplete as many lives as possible on these first couple points to make their job in the late game very easy.
Canyon looking for that information and immediately pops out, meets 3 players staring down at him. Not much you can do there. But as we keep on moving throughout, yeah, I mean, we're down to 180-ish lives, give or take. And quite frankly, that's more than I would have wanted to see lost here.
Yeah, they've traded out HQ, at least for now, for bunker. Unfortunately, they're losing HQ as well. I'm not sure if the covering fire from the tank is extremely valuable right now. However, you don't want to lose that tank. And so you're seeing that M1 all to the side, just waiting and lying in wait. You see one of our anti-infantry vehicles getting a little bit closer to the action here, right in front of the player we're watching our tech on our screen. And they are just harrying the opponents, trying to weed down the numbers so they have numbers advantage on this point, can capture it and move on to C finally.
Reprieve, back to the trench lines we go.
Enemy key
Into the bunker, staying around a lot of players here, strength in numbers, and as soon as I say that, everyone just starts getting pieced apart, and you pick up your med kit, you try to do something here, but it's just too many. Sometimes you are the point, sometimes you try to get to the point.
Yeah, you got to remember, too, the spawn points are everything. So if you have a forward spawn point as the attackers, it's going to be a huge boon for you. One of the things you saw, I was calling it the anti-infantry vehicle. It does have an anti-infantry gun on it, but I believe transport vehicle maybe is a better word for it. It's one of the words you can use for it. And because of that, people are able to spawn on the vehicle that's closer. Whereas our tank is in the background, just shelling, trying to get at least some assists or help out some of these fights to make them easier. That's where you want that tank. You cannot let that thing get too close, or it will be blown up and you won't have it for the next point. And so I think it's a crucial piece to play, and they've got engineers on it keeping it alive, but our transport vehicle is the one that was helping us out. And you can see it, they're on the point getting a little mixy, and they've got a gunner on top, so we're going to be able to potentially pick up a few spawns on point, and all of a sudden what looked like a pretty nice advance for the attackers, the defense has set up somehow a surmounting effort to be able to take back both points and wipe these players through the trenches, likely on the back of players like this who are getting quad kills, pentakills, and all of a sudden B1 is fully recaptured by the defense. Part of that coming from this artillery shelling, I'm sure, but very well done from the defense.
I mean, you see 3 of the enemy attackers just trying to get in there, and as soon as you see all the artillery shells, they are just diving out, saying, no, there's no way we can get in there. So good hold there for the defense. And they're not letting up this pressure. I am actually loving what I'm witnessing from our individual squads.
This is really well done thus far. We all know that B1 and B2 probably one of the harder points besides maybe point E on this map. The next couple, when you look at Village, point C, Lumberyard, Artillery, they aren't quite as difficult. These are probably the most difficult on the map. You know, arguments can be aside for the point E, and so because of that, this is what you want to see if you're the defense. Job's not done, still 100 lives to go through, and obviously the attackers finally able to get B2 yet again. They are trading point after point after point. We need a hero on B2 to hold it down so the rest of the team can push over to B1.
The issue is less than 100 lives there. It is now or never. You want to maintain the majority of what you've got to make this work, but back to the screen here. You've got the boys, the personal squad, and I love that we're kind of just looking at everyone's different POVs from it, because they are definitely having that chemistry that we've been looking for when it comes to just kind of maintaining this. But spending some time with Tilia here in a rogue vehicle, just stuffing themselves through the bunker. Okay, yeah, this is where we back away just a smidge.
Yeah, the problem is a lot of our players aren't focused on anti-vehicle kits right now because of the fight in the trenches. And so unfortunately, because of that, these vehicles are raining terror on the point. Not only letting folks get involved potentially if they're out of combat for a moment, but also just a menace. I mean, we've got guns on them. Obviously, people can pop out of the vehicle, pop into the vehicle to avoid some cover. It can tank. It can provide some cover. That was a frustrating thing to deal with. They're having to back up because they're so weak, but we have enough engineers on the opposing side that they're somehow able to keep most of these vehicles alive, and it's going to come down to players like this Tilia right now trying to figure out, how do I get involved without giving my life away for free? And one of the ways I can do that is play a little bit further back, pick off some from a distance, and then potentially throw my Viren charges out onto the vehicle and get enough damage to blow that thing up. That's my goal at the very least.
Well, at least you saw the Toxics, right? They were using Dragonfly to at least use that swarm for the UAVs to give the allies that adrenaline boost and really try to counteract the enemies that were getting stuffed in there alongside those vehicles. But John DeBomb, Yellow Love over here on the other side, just trying to get back into the fray of things. A little more calm.
It's a great job from our attackers to take B1 and B2. It was such a big tug of war there that I wasn't expecting them to come swinging in that hard, but it was the vehicles. Made a huge difference. It's one of the things we talked about at the beginning of this map is vehicles are going to be everything. How to use them effectively? How do you keep them alive? And there was a kind of a push and pull of the vehicles not wanting to get too active. But when we got under 100 lives, it was kind of like, all right, call in the reinforcements. Even if we lose some vehicles on the way, we got to do it. And it worked out perfectly. This point C tiff is one that you and I always see go very quickly to the side of the attackers. So I'll be curious to see what the defense's positioning looks like here. And it looks like they're taking a fairly forward, aggressive stance to try to weed out these numbers.
Definitely respectable, but I mean, at least the attackers had so many Allurus out there on the engineer side, keeping the vehicles fresh. But let's see how this is going to go as we use the building for cover, and you see the vehicle on the other side, and I'm like, I am not exiting this building right now. Maybe a different pass here for Vabatrow.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about. I mean, C's almost already gone. It's just it's so close to B1 and B2 that it's not meant to be one that you hold for very long unless you just have a clear advantage. This is going to be Village immediately going to the way of the attackers. So, yes, they might have used over 250, almost 300 lives on B1, B2. They've gotten back about 180 in the blink of an eye. And so all of a sudden, the attackers are looking pretty strong yet again as they continue to maintain power with their vehicles and push to new.
Bit of a classic here. Kind of working this hillside as we prepare. 3 seconds to go, and then we'll be moving on to the next. D1, D2. You're right. Pretty quick there on the C to maintain as many of the lives as possible. So D1, D2. This can go kind of either way as you get this nice free cam shot of the way that we're kind of setting up our initial approach up the hill.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see some of our players potentially change some of their kits and their operators moving into D1, D2. Maybe E is where they decide to do that. Some of these points are going to be a little bit different, obviously, than trench lines. There's going to be a lot more open air, some longer range weaponry, or even just operator abilities should be nice. I think something like a D-Wolf isn't a bad option, especially you need to pick up an AT-4 if you're on the defensive team. D-Wolf's an easy way to grab a rocket launcher and be able to take out one of these vehicles. It looks like the defense has some vehicles of their own now off to the right-hand side. You're going to be guarding lumberyard and then artillery position. I prefer artillery position, which is the one that you're seeing on your screen right now. Lumberyard is so open in comparison that it's going to be very hard to defend, which is why the attackers have elected to go there first.
Well, I love that you were talking about would we see some operator switch-ups right there, and just immediately sitting with the boys. Hey, we had an enthrallment of Allurus kind of coming in. You were talking about the vehicles they're bringing in. Of course, they still do have one Hack Claw, but mind you, they started off with some Toxics, some Hack Claws, and even a Rogue Luna when trying to get those initial points onto B. So now that we're D, we are completely changing up the strategy.
Yeah, and we can see We're able to take back both mostly, but it looks like they're losing down D2. So a classic move, and it might have even been an intentional bait and switch. Like, I want to give these players as much of a benefit of the doubt as I can, because they are the top of the line. They qualified for this event. And I think it's a really good strategy, if intentional, and I assume it was, kind of make aggressive push on D1 first, make Lumberyard look like an appetizing free pick, and then after you start capturing it and the defense moves off of D2 to come at least take a look at D1 and try to do some semblance of defense, you push over to the harder point to capture D2, pick up artillery, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races. It's worked out near perfectly. And we can see now players have earned enough value to get some guided missiles, artillery strikes to vehicles. This is where these support systems are going to be everything for this game. And, well, that'll do, Tiff. That is going to change the game dramatically for our defense. Able to pick up almost an entire, what looks like, area of the map with that guided missile.
All I know is I saw Pre-Walker in the dead center of it, and I was like, TanoSSquaD just got hit head on through that. But coming back through to our tech and squad. This is going to be your Spectre team coming in from week 1.
The enemy has captured objective Delta 2. We have to recapture it.
Time to recapture, but some close range environments. Look, if we're going to play this fence line here and immediately pop up every time someone is looking to breach that hill, I love how we kind of just hit the back to reload and make sure that we can take down 1 or 2 players at a clip.
Well, back and forth we go. The attackers now in control of D1. And it looks like somebody, maybe Crazer, going for the rescues here. Look at this. Able to save a ton of lives, but also get teammates right back into the fray immediately.
Attention.
Very well done from this team and this player, Crazer, picking up teammates here. Not only looking for some extra cash from some of the side objectives, but just generally a good strategy to keep up numbers on the battlefield.
Love the reaction time that we just witnessed from land grab there, trying to use some of this natural terrain as cover. And all right, pop out of the vehicle, and you'll also take that charge here. And we can see that the John de Bomb did actually go back to Luna, so leaving 2 Ulurus alongside, which I think is a really good mix here, especially if they were one of some of the squads that initially called in vehicles right off the rip to get towards D.
Vehicle drop to designated location.
Like an enemy toxic trying to come through over here.
Bit of a stalemate on D2. Now that they've swapped back. Canyon is trying to make quick work of some of these floaters on the outside of the point and just immediately gets cut down. And back to the boys we go. John de Bomb was slaying out in pubs preparing for this a little bit earlier today. We both had a chance to pop into their stream. Some of our players, of course, streamers, content creators. Some, though, just mega sweats trying to compete and make a name for themselves in esports. And right now, I think all eyes on the tanks. How do we get these out of here as fast as possible?
Kind of unfortunate here. You can see Pre-Walker is going to be granted some of those kills that we just witnessed go down on our screen. But you got the real Polska Gurom. Finally, kind of more action from them and some nice mid-range engagements here as we look situated to get back on up, signaling, hey, this is how we're going to attack. But I think this is a really good operator composition for their initial squad, right? You've got a couple different recon options and then a Luru, and we kind of take a couple people without them even noticing. And you can still use this to grab people running up the hill. Okay, get some cover.
Yeah, it's a great play. And also, again, the recon arrow is so dang strong right now in Warfare. It's something you're going to see at least one, maybe not per squad, but a ton of them being called in. Now, the siren's being called, which means we've got a guided missile on the way. Our players know that. They're going to try to back up where they think the missile could land. Could even the playing field pretty dramatically if they don't move out. And it looks like a connect only on 1 player on D2. Trying to hold down this point. People were able to clear out of the way, or at least weren't on that point yet. So 1 kill with the guided missile, not what you wanted to see. You really need to make sure that when you call in these missiles, call in these artillery strikes, get as much value as you can. Oftentimes what I see work really well at a high level like this is being able to call it in where you think people will scatter to. If you call it in right on the middle of the point, you're not going to hit anybody.
That's a really good point. But you see TanoSSquaD, it was going to be 1 member of their roster Santera is on the screen, who has already redeployed back into it, right? So just making sure that they can get in, but you hear more sirens. We knew this was going to happen, especially once we get to D and more particularly E. But how are we scattering? We're looking up to the sky for that information. Free cam to see the connections, but this time Zerf grabs 2.
Yeah, a nice play. It should open it up a little bit here on D2. I mean, you're seeing a massive jump onto D2 for the attackers. They're trying to do kind of a late game push. We're nearing 100 lives yet again, and it doesn't look like the attackers are going to be able to take both these points at the exact same time. If they could coordinate a hair better with some of these support systems, with the guided missiles, artillery strikes, potentially onto both, they could throw down enough artillery fire to potentially try to take both, or at the very least open up a window to do so. You can see D1 being recaptured here by the defense as 2 vehicles are harrying, trying to keep them off of it. It's a good play, but I think our defense has figured out, hey, don't worry. We got a couple D-Wolves of our own, a couple AT-4s. Down goes, I think, both of those vehicles via these AT-4s.
D1 is going to be recaptured in no time, credited to the defense, so we'll be feeling really nice. But those attacking side that committed all towards D2 are going to have to filter through the majority of our defense. And you can see now they're all setting their objectives straight through the trench lines, getting closer towards D2. So Arctic here is going to have that first initial standoff, really close range, but we'll keep an eye on that later.
Yeah, a guided missile landed on D1, picked up a couple, but all of a sudden the attackers have a tank, and we're down to 88 lives, so it's high time for our tank to come into action. And I'll be curious to see if they're able to get a ton of value out of it, or if the defense is able to set up enough rocket launchers to take it out, C4s or anything in between. But a guided missile after guided missile. We've got a tank on both sides. If you're looking at our kill feed in the top right-hand corner, attack and defense, both with vehicles of their own. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of value. Here comes the guided missile. Where is it? D1, who's there? Nobody. You can see, look at all of those attackers. They're on the point capturing it. When the guided missile is called, they scatter to the hills and wait for it to land. Very well executed by our attackers.
Beacon called in so we can keep those redeploys quite quickly. I do see 3 to 4 kills coming in from a missile there as well, but Shashish here. Filtering back on in alongside Artec. Now, mind you, they were the ones that were in the initial trenches just a few moments ago and are doing the best they can. A little bit of a duck dive option, but sometimes you got to be quicker than that. Gets traded on out, and we'll see what the other teams can do.
Yeah, they were able to capture it too. I mean, I think a mix of the guided missiles and the tanks is really what opened up the door finally at the end of that one. We've given them 183 lives moving into the last point of the first map. I mean, look, it feels good to have a map this even. As a reminder, these teams came from open qualifiers. If they qualified in week 1, they're playing together and they're in Team Alpha. If they qualified in week 2, they are playing together as Team Bravo. And it's pretty dang even. 183 lives going into point E. We've used a lot of guided missiles. I'm sure we'll see a lot more. This is going to be a point that's going to be difficult to hold. But with 2 tanks on the point, immediately attackers go to work to try to take them out as soon as possible. The problem is, Tiff, I expect a lot of folks to pick up some of those engineer operators to make sure these tanks stay alive.
I was really curious about that because immediately as the attack was setting up 2E, I figured their vehicle would actually try to wrap around the back line. But you know, with that windmill on E, a lot of players are going to look for height, play the building, and just kind of get cheeky with it while we're looking to kind of cross on. So at least the majority of the team across the way, you see Artec just ahead, but someone's here on the supply crate, and Canyon might actually be able to give him a little sneak attack.
Yeah, that'll be a nice flank here from Canyon to come around the backside. Again, the goal here with a flanking quote-unquote hero play like this is to weed out these numbers so that their full force attack moving onto the point is going to be something that the rest of your team can deal with. Right now, they're outnumbered, but with this nasty flank, picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5, this is gross. Very well played. Canyon going huge, finally cut down.
Oh no, it's gonna get messy. Land grab on your screen here. A little bit of visual clutter, but if we're gonna bring in those guided missiles, we were talking about them. Not only were we gonna see them on D, but back to free cam 4E. This is where you should get the most bang for your buck in terms of that air support. And let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'll take a triple out of it, especially for Vabatrow.
This is a perfect setup. Did you see what they did? All of the attackers grouped up inside the building, called a guided missile to the outside on the far right, wipe 4 or 5, and then all of a sudden they jump on the point immediately. They're taking this point in stride. The problem is more missiles being called in. They have to split up. They have to scatter on the point, so they're not able to take it immediately, and the defense is already back. There was a brief moment of opportunity to gain some ground, but they weren't able to get as much ground as they would have liked, and now you can take a look at the point and see how much it is even back out. The defense now regrouping from the back where the spawn is as Sway calls in a quad kill with the guided missile, try to open things back up.
Okay, Sway. We'd love to see it, but job's not done. We have even more coming our way.
Drop to designated location.
Brief moment there as you have to deal with the Dragon Swarm and gets taken out. To the vehicles we go, and there it connects on the hillside, but only for 2. This time it's going to be 1 from Sadu Mazu, who actually gets vengeance onto TanoSSquaD, who called in the last guided missile.
Nice split attack here from the attack, and then yeah, chat's going to get, I think, 4 with that one. Constant missiles barrage, folks. This is what you always see on point E of trench lines. It is missiles galore, and you're not safe in the building either. The defense trying to call in these missiles onto the building. The attackers trying to call the missiles on the outside of the building so they can push in from the inside. This is a very close one, but right now the defense about to hold them to less than 100 lives. Here comes another one. Foxana on the backside, able to pick up a triple. And here comes the tank from the defense to push up onto the actual point. They've got to get involved. Even if you take a ton of damage, you've got to get onto this point and get onto the point ASAP.
Well, sometimes you just got to thrive in that chaos. And with this close range, finds 1, finds 2. Give him another one as we check in where that missile will connect. For the first time, we're actually not seeing anything going to go the way. But you know what it does give you? A bit of just isolation around that, because Relax comes in and picks up the majority of the kills from that.
Wow, Relax, I think, picked up 7 on that missile. That should open things up dramatically for his squad to be able to push onto this point, and that's exactly what's happening. Look at this, being ticked down immediately. Unfortunately, we've got a nice flank here from the defense, potentially get back into the map. But the problem is more missiles incoming, and the problem with missiles is that you can't abandon the point completely if your opponents have taken it. But constantly, the defense is able to get back onto the point faster, as it looks like this one only picks up Epic.
I love that we're on board with the player that single-handedly tanks it, right? You just look up in the sky, you're like, that just happened. But for Zero, Epic kind of getting back into it. You see their squad at least has a vehicle still looking to isolate on the outside of things. But when we're looking towards that inner building and kind of trying to maximize out here, we're looking for those close range engagements. We got 60 tickets left.
Yeah, you can see Wands here on your screen is getting involved with Byron, one of my favorite operators, pointing out to the boys, lock in, we got him. Is able to take down the vehicle with those charges from Byron's kit, a really nice value add. But one of the other things I'm seeing, you know, top left in particular, obviously the S12, extremely valuable at close range. We're talking about the close range engagements. This shotgun is reigning supreme on the map right now. Because of point E and being able to play inside this building, and they know that building is such a power position, they're getting involved with the S12. But Yellow Love on the other side was one of our top players yesterday in some show matches, but at esports, also having a pretty good game. The problem is the attackers are running out of daylight. They need to coordinate an attack, and they need to coordinate it now.
This will be the start of it. Back to it. Windmills on fire. Here comes another one. Kaysen does pick up John DeBomb and Roach, so quite unfortunate for those two, but we're not done. A couple more on that other side of things of E. It's just chaotic here, down to literally 26 for our attackers.
I think Wands just cleared the entire point of the defense. There is a moment where the attackers have a chance to win this game, but they got to move right this second. You can see them all on the point. They might do it just off that one guided missile. It might take 20, it might take 1, but Wands has cleared the point. The attackers are on the move, and they're trying to take this thing, but the defense has somehow battled back. Will this be the leveling of the playing field we need? No. Bonnie picks up a couple, but it is still a tug-of-war, and the defense have somehow clawed their way back into this game, back onto point E, and they might win this first map with only 8 lives remaining. This is the final stand for the attack. They've got to make a move right this second, or our defense is going to win.
All right, let's see what we can do for Team Bravo here. And unfortunately, Not enough. Lives have been distinguished. They are gone. It is wild. And man, what an epic first game there on Trench Lines.
I love Trench Lines. It's one of my favorite maps for that very reason. Point E is an utter slaughter fest, and it has both CQB and long-range encounters that you can play around, and it was a constant tug of war of missile per missile, you know, blow for blow. There was a chance for the attackers there. I think it was Wowsy that was able to drop like 8, I think, of the 20 players with the guided missile, dropped it on the building itself, creating a power position for the attackers. They were able to drop it out of neutralization, actually start taking the point. They just didn't have enough numbers to actually get on the point. Even with that tank, it looked like the defense was able to take out those vehicles faster than their attackers were, and so because of that, they were able to clear the point quickly enough to get the win in the final moment. But let's take a quick look back on some of the best replays from that map, because Tiff, frankly, it was a banger. It was a really fun one to watch, and I think one of my favorite parts was the blow for missiles. Yes. But I think B1, B2 was some of the most entertaining warfare action we've seen, specifically because it forces you to play into the actual trenches, and so you're seeing the players adapt to those points, and it truly was a back and forth that was pretty miraculous that the attackers were able to actually get through.
Yeah, the fact that they were able to hold that substantially was really nice. And even if the attackers were capturing a point, the defense was acting up real nicely when it came to taking things back. And look, we get to go through and initially see captured with ease, basically. So then we really set our sights onto B1, B2. You talked about it getting into the actual trench lines, that close quarters combat. We had a lot of SMG gameplay, and people were just kind of using the majority Luna, Hat Claws, all of that nature to get in there. But I love that some of the teams had just pure squads of engineers, because after we get on through A is where we saw a lot of those vehicles come into play.
Yeah, and I think when you were talking about weapon usage, and I think it's a really good point. I think the SR, the SMG-45, the Q, all really good options for close-range encounters for these trench lines, and you're seeing most of the players go for that. And later into the map, we saw Shotgun even come out. S12K so strong when it comes to actual CQB and forcing your way, basically barrel stuffing your opponent. I mean, it's one-shots them, you're good to go. But it was this moment, taking B, that finally opened it up. You're seeing an S12 here in the trenches as well. But it was actually getting some of those infantry vehicles onto the points, with the tank providing some of the cover fire. Here, this is what I'm talking about. Perfect timing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking get involved. They send all 3 onto the actual point to just harry the point so dramatically the defense can't do anything about it. Of course, C immediately falls to the hands of the attackers, and namely because of moments like that. I mean, you pick up 4 or 5, all of a sudden C is gone. And D, there was a battle back and forth. There was moments where we thought they could potentially, you know, thwart the attackers here. But truthfully, Tiff, I think when we look back on these replays, one of the things I'm noticing is that it's classic resource management, and in warfare, one of those resources is your lives. They just spent too many lives getting to point E. They only had 150 or so moving to this point, and there's the blow for blow we were talking about with the guided missiles. This was a ton of fun.
It immediately starts, but here's what you're talking about. We see a nice 3-piece right there, clearing out the building. A couple players looking to take that chow initially on the windmill, which is smart, right? We know that we want to see someone up there specifically holding down those angles. The cost of having that high ground is once you get focused out and you have to parachute down, you're likely just throwing away your life.
Yeah, and I think it truly was chaos, but that is the nature of warfare. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about, which is that you have to process a massive amount of information at once. And there were some heroic plays from individuals that truly did change the game, but the defense comes out on top in the first one. That's going to be 1-0 for the side of our original defending team. But we're going to head to a very short break. We're going to calculate a few scores in case we get to tiebreakers. We'll be able to show those after a very quick break here in the booth. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, it's going to be game 2 of our very first piece of action here in the Global League. Be right back in just a moment. folks, welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 1 EU Warfare Finals, folks. It was a banger of a first round, and I gotta say, it was utter chaos, even for us in the booth. I think you heard about it. It was nutty, but it was a dang good time. Team Bravo getting the win there in the very first map, and they did a great job doing it. And I think one of the things that we noticed throughout the course of that map was that frankly, the defense was just able to weed out those resources. And so very well done in the very first map. But regardless, we've got a lot to talk about before we hop into the second one. And Tiff, welcome back to the booth. I think we had some fun conversation during the break about how chaotic everything was. But I can't wait to see this leaderboard because of a couple reasons. One, you and I both know that it just comes down to which side gets the win. That's actually all that matters. But on the tiebreaker, on the chance that these teams actually trade wins, then we might get into some of the weeds of how many points did they actually capture, how many lives were remaining when they did fully capture everything. There's some fun nuances that we'll get a chance to talk about. But what do you think about that very first map? I know it was chaotic.
Yeah, it definitely was quite interesting, right? Because it's our first time perusing through the actual spectator client, so kind of trying to delineate between the individual squads and then the Bravos and Alpha squads as a whole. But I think Trenchlines was the great opener for the Delta Force Global League to be able to see just how people were going to navigate the structure that we were going to witness according to the different points that we were going to be seeing. Obviously, B, D, and then even E. But it seems like B1, B2, the biggest hiccup of things. But when we go into switching sides for our next map, it's what are you going to do to make those adaptations that are going to allow you to bring that map up on the opposing team?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, and I think we'll be swapping sides here shortly, and Bravo is going to definitely have an interesting chance here to attack. But let's take a look at the overall leaderboard and see where everybody lined up. And as we had mentioned, yes, Team Bravo won. Here's a quick look at the overalls, though, for which squads really were out on top, and it was the real Polska that was actually able to net the most kills by a sizable margin here, even between the two teams. And interestingly enough, I think this team did really well in the open qualifiers as well. I mean, this is obviously one of our top teams today in general, but even during the qualifiers, they were the top ranked team going into this, which was really impressive. So to have that amount of consistency and get the first map win, we got to keep our eyes on that quad, Tiff.
We really do. I'm kind of just looking through, impressed with the boys. We saw a lot of their action here on the main broadcast, breaching that 200 kill threshold, but from Team Alpha, with all of the things that we took and saw from the initial guided missiles, specifically on E last game, how many times did Team Bravo call them in and we would just see like one or two members of TanoSSquaD just getting completely isolated?
Yeah, and a big shout to Spectre's team, obviously on the left-hand side, our top team from Team Alpha. They were crushing on the attack. That's going to be Artek, Shashish, Chachin, Hyson, all doing a really good job. We saw several guided missiles, of course, but just generally playing the game very, very well. But yeah, let's take a look at where we're headed next. I think you all understand it. Pretty easy to track. We're playing trench lines, both sides. And yeah, this time, Team Bravo going to have a chance to attack. Keys to success, Tiff, I think we're learning along the way. One of the things that we need to remind ourselves is we can't waste this many tickets throughout the course of these points. We've got to have enough lives at the end of the map to take point E, because it truly is the hardest point to take just because of where the defense spawns.
Let's do it. Let's see how they're gonna do it. I love that we get to see each map and we switch sides, but this is just kind of giving us everything that we need before we move on to crack. Now, will we see Team Bravo kind of go up and take it in a 2-0 fashion out of 4? Because then you have to go into that reverse sweep necessary there for Team Alpha, or kind of bring us into a tie game. But we're just about to get into the second map, which is wild because it's like, this is the first time that we're getting for Season 1 here at the Delta Force Global League for EU Warfare in particular. And like we said at the top of the show, it's really kind of just setting the competitive kind of guidelines in place that we're witnessing, the ground floor of these quads coming together, regardless of how they met. You always talk, Goj, like, are they streamers? Are they content creators? Are they just kind of reuniting based on what they've found? Because as you peruse a lot of these people that are playing and warming up for these tournaments, especially today, we see so many of the Delta Force community kind of hyping them up, looking for advice, in particular asking, why are you using certain operator composition? What's going to be better? Are you looking at B1 or B2 first? Like, where do we go and kind of attack?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Tiff. And I was taking a look at some of my notes, and one of the things that I was noticing is I'm looking at obviously Real Polska Gurom as one of our top teams on Team Bravo. I want to give a shout out to the boys as well. We saw them doing really well in that map, really strategically doing well for their team, because I think as much as we like to tout in all of the broadcasts that we've done over the last, several weeks now of these squads, one of the things we always talk about is squad score, squad kills, and all of that good stuff. Today, truthfully, what matters for the main objectives is just getting the win, and I truly thought that the boys played for their team very, very well. So keep watching out for them, as well as Huptirik as well. But hey, folks, as we're about to jump into what is going to be a banger map too, I can only assume, as a quick reminder, we talk about these events that we do all the time with Delta Force. One of the things that you got to do in order to be involved in the events, maybe you could have qualified for esports, you're that good, but you didn't know about it, you've got to follow Delta Force on all major socials, folks. Obviously, we are live all over the place, but also there is a lot more down the line when it comes to Delta Force, and especially on some of those news sites, aka X, where we're also live right now. It's a great opportunity to get involved with Delta Force. You can join the Discord for more like-minded individuals, all the same things I always say. One more quick thing about this though is that Delta Force has a brand new esports Twitter X account. You need to go check it out. They've been posting about the esports. This is a brand new thing they just launched not too long ago. You want to get a chance to get involved in that. It is going to be at DF Game Esports. At DF Game Esports is that brand new Twitter account for esports. If you like what you're seeing, and you like what you're seeing later today when we get to North America, and then even into operations, yeah, go drop that a follow. They're going to be giving lots of updates on how to get involved in the future and the updates on the tournaments at hand. That is at DF Game Esports. All right, go drop them a follow. I know they'll appreciate it, and there's a lot of cool things coming for Delta Force Esports. Now, all right, Tiff, we're about to jump into game number 2. I'm getting word that I think all of our players are ready to go. Anybody that needed to get some water after a sweaty first round certainly did that. Big takeaways from map 1. Give me your quick hits, maybe 3 bullet points of the key things you saw in that map from either of these teams as we jump into game, and what we can expect from maybe our attackers this time.
Get your credits up. Get your vehicles on B. Use recons at first. I love that we see stingers and assault operators coming out as we go to just full onslaught A, and then we make those quick adaptations for B. But you have to be positioned, quite frankly, in the best way to allow yourself success on A.
That's such a great point. I'm excited to see what the teams are able to do. Now, a reminder, everybody swap sides. So the team that is attacking is still going to be red, but the team and the team defending is still going to be green, but they're going to be swapped teams. So all of our attackers last map are now defending, and they're going to be in green this time. We'll try to call out the teams as we see them. And as we get into the mix of things, it looks like our defense immediately punishing their opponents.
I expect nothing less, honestly. I would be really wild to see it kind of go the way of one specific squad with Team Bravo trying to take another W, but as we kind of look through, get those initial contacts, and keep the respawn beacons active, right? We want to make sure, hey, if we're faltering here, get our team back into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, respawn beacons are actually probably, I mean, even... they've got to be at least as valuable as vehicles or close to it. I mean, obviously you can spawn on vehicles if they're not in combat, so they basically act as a beacon for your squad at the very least, but the respawn beacons change the fight completely. If you can dictate where your team drops in after being eliminated, you can push with a massive force before the defense can even answer back. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Obviously, the traditional respawn beacons that you can get from Luna, but also the team respawn beacons that you can use from your sport systems are pretty valuable. So look out for those, but look out for our defenders coming in from, it looks like the side of point A to try to hold this thing down. Attack is trying to put up a semblance of a wall of force, and well, barrel stuff your opponents, usually you're going to get punished for it, but if you can at least trade some, could be worthwhile.
I was gonna say, I really loved that initial intention there, especially if you're gonna jump around that underneath the sprinting, but there was just too many players and you get immediately laid out. So the free cam to really set up the sights here of where you can see all of the respawn beacons, approximately 4 on the right, 4 on the left. You love to see it, but that we're like kind of filtering all of our attackers under the guise of that smoke straight through as we keep on hard pushing A. Epic finds a couple, Arctic to get some for real as well, but it's Pre-Walker, Sway, and Antares that had a lot to say on E in that map 1, but are still trying to filter their way on in. But hey, preserve those lives, get those reses up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we saw, you called it out perfectly, the respawn beacons. Sometimes we only talk about respawn beacons on the side of the attackers and how valuable it can be. Frankly, for these first couple points, respawn beacons are more valuable for the defense. I mean, they spawn so far away in comparison to the attackers. This first point, usually in pubs, isn't that hard to capture. But if the defense is able to spawn right next to the point using these respawn beacons and the attackers don't set up a flank to be able to take it out, the defense is going to have a clear advantage. And speaking of advantage, how about a tank advantage from the attack? Coming in multiple vehicles, and you can tell, you can see the defense is already scrambling to get these things out of here as fast as possible.
Only gonna scramble so far. Just, hey, let your engineers do the work. Let them pull out all of their anti-vehicle equipment and make sure that they're putting in the work to take all that down. But a close range engagement. I'm loving the way people just kind of jump around these objectives, and they're just, ooh, actually, give it to me. I was wanting more mid to long range engagements, and anxiety here on your screen is going to be doing just that.
And again, information is everything. Being able to process the information is one thing. Just having the information is another. So using Luna to be able to do that, massive value add for your team. It's basically a full second on that recon arrow that you're able to see people through walls, behind cover, through smoke, anything. So it is a massive value add for your team, let alone the respawn beacons for your squad. But nice push here on the flank. Looks like the attackers are going to be able to take point A with ease. This is actually a bit faster than their opponents. Actually, quite a bit faster than their opponents. They're going to have max value going into B1 and B2.
And this is what we want to see, right? Especially when we saw B1, B2 did take the longest. So what are we going to take from A? Are we going to swap out some operators? For right now, they're likely going to spawn in with the exact same thing and keep moving that forward. A couple stingers to boot to keep that, whether they're self-rezzing, turning the smoke heals on, but we'll keep an eye on that. It's just going to be Karshim here. Last for the 7th Levas, but maybe we can pick up a couple. Mind you, side objectives in play.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm looking for MVP squad. I mean, I think we know which squads are at the lead for that right now. Polska being one of those, dominating in the first one. They're going to be probably our top squad after the first map. Doesn't mean they'll be the top squad for the second, though. The attackers, again, are in a little bit better of a spot than they were in the last map because the teams have swapped sides. And that's Team Bravo looking to go back-to-back. And again, this is a record out of 4. There is no overtime. There's no extra maps. It's just a record out of 4. And as such, if you're able to take the first 2, you're in a really good spot. You just need to win one of the next 2 to be able to 100% secure the win. Of course, you could trade 2-2 and go for the tiebreaker here. But as per the usual, tanks in action, getting involved. This is a tank on the attacker side. And anytime you see a tank, you're going to see engineers around it. The tanks do have some self-healing they can do. But to have engineers with the blowtorches to be able to pick the tank up immediately after taking a couple shells, a couple AT4s, they're so dang hard to kill without killing the operators themselves.
Nice work through the smoke here. We're getting picked on off, but it's land grab. Kind of trying to work on out of the trenches, but when you leave yourself exposed, even for just a couple of seconds, you're gonna get picked off at that mid-range. That is kind of how brutal B1, B2 can be for Creepwalker, Sway. Just kind of trying to hit the pathing now. This is very similar to what we were witnessing back in game number 1 before we had switched sides. So they're getting to do a little bit of what was done to them initially, but as soon as you crawl up out of the trenches, leave just your shoulders and head exposed, tough parts.
Yeah, there's just so many angles you get shot from if you actually pop out on top. You need to. You can't just stay in the trenches the entire time. You're going to get hosed. An attacker pushing the equation. This is Canyon. Had some really nice clips from the first map. Doing a great job this time. Just trying to clear some of these trenches. The attacker is trying to open up a push for the next point. Doing a great job here on B. I'm going to be honest. This is a sizable difference from the attackers last map. Look at this. B2 already completely taken, B1 in trouble. This could be utter domination in the second map if they're not careful. The defense has to change up some strategies and figure out what's going wrong right now. And I think from our perspective, what's going wrong is this tank on the backside shelling. The defense is not able to set up inside. S12K to the face. That'll take you out. And we are sprinting through the trenches. The defense can't find any semblance of a break. They can't even breathe here, Tiff, as the attackers are able to take probably both of these points with only 50 lives.
That's actually kind of brutal. That is brutal. Not what you want to see, but clearly they were ready to be on the attacking and preserving. Get back up on your feet. A little self-heal right there. Get that regenning on up before being picked up hard. And Nate's scared here. 77% up on that swarm.
I mean, frankly, this is, you know, we don't have player comms for this, but I think the player comms on the side of the attackers crushing it right now. The call outs, being able to trade in the trenches, things working out really well for them, and they still have their tank moving into point C. If B1 and B2 weren't a problem, if B1 and B2 only took 50 lives, C's gonna take like 10. I mean, this one went so fast last time. It doesn't look like the defense is even able to set up early here after getting wiped on B1 and B2. This is gonna be rough.
You can just already see the onslaught that's just peppering through that kill feed, and now a little under the bridge action. Only so much you can do, but we didn't even need the vehicles on B1, B2 like we had witnessed, right? Yes, of course we had them, but it's not like you had to throw them straight into the trenches. So people are going to start calling even more in here for the C, and you have to start thinking about it this way. When we get long-term in terms of those credits and calling in those missiles towards E, we may not even see as many come through if it's just this much of an onslaught.
Yeah, and it looks like there is a little bit more defense being set up around this point than maybe I expected. You can see the defense pouring in from left-hand side in our free cam. Looking at the tank, I think they are rushing at this vehicle as fast as possible. The problem is, this is where the attackers are spawning right now, so to be able to take this out without dying is going to be extremely difficult. Here comes the push onto the actual point itself. The attacker is setting up really well here with 2 full squads running together, a full team of 8, if you will, pushing the buildings. Set up near flawless. Unfortunately, just losing the gunfight on that one. I mean, sure, we can break down pieces of cover to make C a bit easier, but sometimes you just lose the 1v1.
I wasn't expecting that, actually, especially when they had the initial shots out, but wasn't just kind of hanging out in the back, investing the firepower straight towards the buildings. But it's Zerf that wants to get into the action straight ahead. A couple people on the ground there, picks off 1. Still 4 people just ahead of them under the guise of the smoke. You've even got the dragonfly swarms going out to give you that adrenaline boost for your team. But these windows, all of the engagements happening around windows, I think we're going to win them, and then we don't.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, all of these fights are pretty close. But I think one thing that we've been saying all day, I'm going to continue to repeat, is that the tank is not getting a ton of value, but you have to keep it alive. So you have to play a little bit further back and just shell and hopefully you help your team out. This is one of the better defenses I've seen set up on C in a long time. Usually C drops so quickly. And I think it was one of the things that I mentioned. They were able to get back onto C immediately because they lost B1 and B2 so dramatically. I mean, if they can get below 300 lives, like, this is a well-fought C. If you deplete any lives going into the next point, so they're not max at 400 going into D1, D2, I mean, I count that as a win for the defense.
Just a cover here from Roach. I like that we're keeping the Lunas kind of on the mid-range backline here, but good assistance to come in and pick that player up. But you just cannot rip them out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if I'm the attackers or the defense, frankly, I'd be taking a look at more Stinger operators pushing into this point. I think Stinger with therapeutic gun, we saw a couple of them, and just being able to pick people up off the ground quicker is actually a pretty massive value add on this point. Just raw bodies on point is going to be necessary every point, but on C in particular, they did such a great job of holding. And unfortunately, they finally get cut down as we have one of our vehicles push up onto the actual point itself. and make this defense's job nearly impossible. So I don't know. I mean, I think technically going to be a depletion of a few tickets, but what looked like a really good C defense, and still is in my book, is going to be about a 10 to 15 ticket depletion, pending if they fully secure this or not.
Well, you asked for stingers, and Valbatross said, bet. All right, I'll get you one. No worries there. Good mix here for the individual squad and keeping people alive.
Look how valuable that was. I mean, you're able. We only saw one on broadcast, but look how many people are still alive on C and being healed right now. Able to stay up. A nice push here from the attackers with the shelling from our vehicle to the left-hand side. I think the attackers are going to be able to get this one back. They're able to thwart them for a moment, take back the point long enough to where the defense can get at least one more push back onto C and continue to deplete these lives. We're at 288 on point C. This is extremely impressive from the defense, despite what we saw on B1 and B2.
So they're still trying to kind of get back what is theirs. Attackers finally start to make some headway here. Can we get it to about halfway at least? Good job clearing it on out. Defense coming back on swinging.
This is Team RedWhite there with Barbar doing a pretty good job trying to figure out how do we affect this map with vehicles or not. But finally, there's the push, and they needed to hold for just a hair longer. I mean, they essentially have full lives going in. I think they're -2, 400 is max, so did a really good job. But that's a moment you look back on after the fact as everybody's retreating now, just picking up a few kills left, right, and center. It's one of those moments you're going to look back on B1, B2 in particular and say, man, if we could have held them, you know, well below 100, point C could have been monstrous for us. But because B1 and B2 was basically a complete non-factor, holding that long on C almost didn't matter. And that's kind of impressive to say, considering how long they actually did hold them. I think they spent over 150 lives on that point by itself. So going into D1, D2, you basically have full lives. There is really no depletion of lives. And so because of that, the momentum, basically all of that wind out of your sails is gone. And so now what do? Pushing into D1 and D2 as the attackers, you're still feeling fantastic, even though C was frustrating one.
Well, it's initially just kind of setting up your defense and trying to get that information on where people are coming from. So if you were going to have people climbing up, the majority of them on the left, you've got the attackers investing that tank on their back line, throwing down that heavy artillery straight onto the main point. What you're going to do is essentially filter off a couple of people, which is nice if we are going to have one of them split off, say, hey, these are the players that are looking to flank from the attacking side of things. But what that's doing for the attackers is it's splitting the defense in two, which is still allowing them to put that pressure and make space.
That's a good shout. Looks like the first push is on D2. Babatrow here on screen. And we saw this team, and almost this entire team actually play together yesterday in our EU show matches, and obviously crushed it. Doing a really good job here picking up several teams. Unfortunately, that's a full wipe almost on their whole squad, so I don't think we're going to see any rescues there. D1 could be a jeopardy for the attackers to try to pick up at around the same time as D2. It looks like our spawn point for our defense is now over on D2 to trade these points out. If the attackers have fully locked down D1, then it should go completely captured for our attack, namely because of some of these squads that were able to swing up, wipe full teams, move a vehicle onto the point, and just say, look, let's take full D1 and see what we can do from there.
Well, halfway through there onto D1.
Objective Delta 2 has fallen into enemy hands.
Well, time to go recap D2 as well for our defense. And our
Objective Delta 1 secured.
Target down!
I think Roach here on your screen been a heavy hitter throughout the day today, but also in other events as well. This is going to be Huptirik, and they had quite a few fans pop into the stream here during our break, so shout out to Huptirik. You can tell me if I'm absolutely butchering that or not, because I probably am.
totally fair.
Came through the open qualifiers like our other squads. We're a top 5 team. Made their way to main stage today.
Strategic beacon deployed.
Slowly but steadily trying to set up that strategic beacon. That's something, again, we talked about with the respawn beacons. Luna's got a traditional respawn beacon, strategic beacon. It's going to be for your entire side, which is a huge value add for your team. See the M1 tank coming up, but AT4 picking up several in the kill feed. As we swap perspectives now, the attackers starting to secure both of these points.
Everyone just looking for the regain. Okay, so we've got a couple of the defense out there. You can see them all respawning back in, looking to make a play, but the attack, man, they are just putting too much pressure straight onto them, moving as an absolute unit, and they just start going straight through. It's like every moment that you get a recapture, they're just like, nah, it's fine, but we're just gonna be bouncing back and forth on D, but we really haven't lost too many lives even in that process.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I would be touting the defense here to be able to continue to trade these, but it's not going to matter if they can't hold them here. You know, the kind of the metric I usually pay attention to in Warfare is how long does it take to take these points. If you spend 100 lives for a point, that's fine, because you're going to get around 180 to 100 back, right? And so because of that, you need to hold them way below 100 to see real value going into the last point. And I think, reminder, from the last game with their teams swapped, our attackers only had about 160 lives going into point E. And because of that, they lost. They didn't have enough value to take down the defense at the end, even despite a bunch of guided missiles. So I'll be curious to see what point E is going to look like. And it really comes down to how long can the defense hold and continue to pull. Eventually, you're going to get tired. This tug of war is exhausting for your team. And one mistake, one tactical, macro mistake, and all of a sudden you've lost both. You've lost the tug of war, and you're going to be down in numbers pretty dramatically with the onslaught of 300 plus lives going into point E.
Well, at least you can bring in that signal decoder and look for 60 meters to try and get some more information. It's all about that information grab before you make a push onto your pathway. Boys on your screen, Yellow Love, John DeBomb, and Tilia, waiting for Be Quiet to get back in it, and here they are. Will we see a coordinated push out of this individual squad? 7th Leva, though, working together just to get closer, but immediately you see that visual clutter thanks to some of the neighboring operator abilities.
Mr. Leva squad's a strong one as well. I mean, all these teams are really valuable, but here's the push. Attackers coming up from the south side, coming up from the low ground onto D2, trying to make a kind of late push here onto D2 with the remainder of their forces. Defense is fully set up, ready for this. What that means is they're not going to be recapturing D1. This fight is going to be probably everything when it comes to these two objectives. This is a massive moment, and I'll be curious to see how the defense decides to take this, either from their POV or ours from the attacker side. You can see they've kind of separated over to the right-hand side of D2 to hold, and I think some are scattering to go towards D1. I don't know if they're fully holding this point, or they're just losing it from our perspective right now. I think the attackers could see a ton of value right now with the way this fight is going. Playing top of these tents, able to pick up several Berserker on your screen. Doing a great job. But now, yeah, look at this. The defense is fully scattered, fully abandoned, and are having a last chance ditch effort to try to maybe swing towards D1. They're going to lose D2 here, and they might lose both points.
Well, here comes the free cam. We got to see immediately where people are positioning themselves. It's just halfway through on D2. You're probably right on that. Initially, if we lose D2 and D1 here for the defense right away, they're going to go into the last stand up in E with literally full lives for the attackers almost.
Yeah, it's going to be close for sure, and this is exactly what I expected. This is best case scenario for the attackers. The defense was able to get here and clear out D1, so they're going to start recapping it, but there is enough speed at which the attackers can swing back over here. They could stop this and take both, especially when the tank says, guess what? I've been saving my life for this very moment. How about I back over your face, blow you up with the shell, and do everything I can to take this point? This is my time to shine. They have been playing a supporting character, and now they are the primary objective. The defense has to get out of or blow this tank to smithereens, frankly, and get this tank off their point.
Well, you don't see too many engineers on the defense side of things as well, so gonna have to rely on maybe some of your assault operators. But when you've got a slew of stingers all around, Kaysentar is here, looking to get Mixie straight towards the building, but gets laid out.
Wow. They get 115 back for that, so you're not going to see max value going into the last point, but what you will see is a ton ton of lives. This is nearly like a little bit less than 200 more lives than their opponents had going into the last point. This is a massive advantage for our attacking team, which is Team Bravo. It's the team that won last map. They defended into the final hour, the final moment, were able to deplete all of the lives of their opponent. They have a chance to start this tournament off, to start the Global League EU Warfare Finals off with a 2-0 lead with 2 maps to go. But job is not done. We know how difficult this point is to attack. Even if you have 357 lives moving to this point, it doesn't mean that they will necessarily win.
Looks like defense just called in a vehicle for themselves, where the attackers just kind of drove straight on, trying to take as much of the attention from the defense as possible to allow our attackers that front line forward. Little ring around the rosy, a 1v2 option here, picks up one. Can they grab both? They do. Nice clear out here. And then focusing on healing back on up. Epic doing a really good job here to thin out some.
Strategic beacon deployed.
Yeah, it's going to come down to moments like this. It's going to come down to players like Epic, you know, players
Oh no.
in his squad that can make heroic plays and make sure the numbers are extremely low on any of these pushes. If the attackers get a full coordinated push with a tank and a guided missile, the defense is going to lose this. So you need heroes out in the field playing that kind of route man, getting paid by picking up 5-6 on the back line. It's really your only option right now to try to deplete the numbers enough where the attackers can't put all of their forces onto the point. One of the main things we saw, Tiff, last time where the attackers almost found success was stacking into the building. One of the ways they did that was getting that respawn beacon or the tactical beacon from the actual support systems inside the building so that the defense could, the attackers could spawn in the building. That's something to keep an eye out for as well. Could see some operator shifts for point E.
Epic just kind of running around, picking up those kills like we saw on the outline, but now getting onto E itself and making sure that his teammates are coming back on up.
Keep attacking.
Zerf here. Just trying to anchor down from the building. Waiting for the call from the teammates before striking. Picks up one. Finds another.
Yeah, and you saw the beacon there. It was perfect spot by production to be able to see respawn beacons activated for both teams, I'm sure, but swing onto the point, just weeding out numbers. Attackers have a nice advantage right now. This is a big moment. Now the defense has set up a tank finally, so we're going to see both of these tanks a little bit preoccupied with each other. And it looks like our infantry vehicle has been exploded immediately, and so is our defensive tank. Look at it, it's on 1 HP, getting chased down by the attacking tank. Unbelievable. Sure, Sarah's trying to play spoiler in the spawn point that's inside the building that's been set up by the attackers. But that vehicle fight was everything. And sure, the defense's tank did some nice damage. But the problem is they lost it in the equation, and now only the attackers have a tank, which means only the attackers have that advantage. This is brutal.
Well, here we go. Guided missiles incoming. We knew this was going to happen on E. We were curious how many we would see, but do we connect for the majority? Bringing out the free cam here to see the exact point of contention.
Nice.
Picks up the majority of it. A great way to clear out E.
Yeah, there was 2 defensive guided missiles at the same time, split up evenly across the point to make sure they picked up some of the stragglers. Very well done. I think that was like 10 kills in total between those 2 missiles. And you saw the attacker's tank recognize that and back all the way out of the point to make sure it stayed alive. If that tank was on the point, it would have been gone, and it changed it. Even still, even with half of it wiped, the point has been taken. The tank drives back on, clears the pathway, and our players on the attacking side win, which means Team Bravo has now won back-to-back maps here, Tiff.
Look, it's just crazy. And it was just an utter force of domination. It started immediately on B1, B2, right? When we noticed how quickly both of those sectors had fallen, I was like, we are in for a treat. You get a mid standoff there on C, but even D1, D2, it wasn't going to be any difference. The moment we get to E, that was one of the quickest things we could have seen. So I love to see them kind of go through, find their flow and communication and synergy between all of the squads on Team Bravo.
Yeah, I want to take a look back on some of our favorite replays from this one. There were tons of moments. I think one of the first things we saw point A into point B was that A, B, C, D, all of them went extremely quickly. And because of that, it made point E so much easier for our attacking team. Obviously, some great strategies and some great moments, but it wasn't even close. Look at this. Almost full lives going on to point C. This was the one moment, I will say, Tiff, where I was like, okay, wait, our defense has a chance, because they held C longer than most people in pubs do. I mean, they held C for quite some time in a lobby of some of the best players in the world, especially in Europe, obviously. But then we get to D, and it was not the same story. This one went extremely quickly. A nice little tug of war that just eventually just proved unfruitful for our defending squad. They couldn't handle the onslaught of A, vehicles, but also just generally the firepower of our attack.
Some good moments here, even just kind of working from the outsides, just using the sandbags and any kind of cover you can find, and the knowing of when to back out. You pick up one, you pick up two, you focus on the reheal, and I think that's just really knowing your overextensions, and we're seeing a lot of really sick clips come through from those moments.
Yeah, and here's point E. Obviously, we've got the final stand with 365 tickets or so moving into that point. Quickly dwindled down, sure, on the backs of a couple, guided missiles that were finally called in, but it truthfully wasn't very close. Here's a couple moments where tanks being blown up, and that was a key one, I think, for me. Here's that guided missile we were talking about. That was from the defense. It was a great setup. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. We had enough attackers on the point already, and our attacking tank was the one that was actually able to stay alive. One of the reasons they were able to find such a massive victory. Here's the key note, Tiff. There's a ton of them, but I think the main one for me is that not only is Team Bravo 2-0, they also had 300 lives remaining at the end of that one. So when it comes down to our tiebreakers, should things be completely even and we get to our third tiebreaker, they will have a massive advantage with a ton of tickets. But I don't know. They could go 3-0, they could go 4-0, or it could go 2-2. Either way, I think Team Bravo has a massive advantage. We're going to head to a very short break, folks. When we come back, it's going to be game number 3. It is EU Warfare Finals here in our Global League. It's Season 1. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's see if Team Alpha can turn things around.
Find the terminal.
Your compatibility really has been.
Billy de Montbel. Call sign Nox, assault operator. Trained by Havoc, Nox is a seasoned mercenary with rich experience. As a man of few words who prefers to operate independently, his collaboration with GTI is a product of necessity rather than a choice. Specializing in information disruption with proficiency in various combat techniques, he excels in stealth operations. Like a cold dagger, he exposes vulnerabilities in enemy defenses to strike at their throats. Nox's tactical equipment, Silent Assault, consists of an information jammer and sonic jammer. When activated, the disruptors emit sonic interference waves, minimizing Nox's sound propagation and the alert range of enemies. While this interference is in effect, enemy recon tools are unable to pinpoint Nox's exact location.
Allied forces are engaging at objective Bravo.
Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 1 EU Warfare Finals. It's been a banger already, folks. If you're just tuning in, where the heck you been? We've seen amazing back and forth attack and defense on trench lines. Let's take a quick look at the leaderboard before we hop into the next map, Tiff, because we're headed to Crack next. But first, we must see how close things truly are. As a reminder, all that matters is your win-loss ratio. And here's the look at the winning and losing team here with Team Bravo in the win category and also leading in the kill category at the top. The real Polska group looking really strong, having 3 of the top 4 players on their team, with Yellow Love from the boys there in 2nd overall for Team Bravo.
Look, I know we're gonna have like our side objectives with Most Slayer, MVP squad, top medic, but if you're gonna have a standout performance where you grab 68 kills in one map, of course, a couple of members of the real Polska Gurom is gonna be up there in numbers as well. You've got Wands with their 57, huge, but it's also the number of revives. A top medic, the individual player with the most rescues across all completed matches, is gonna be mission critical to grab a little bit of an extra, cash bonus here today. But I am really impressed with what we have witnessed there from game 2 in such a dominating performance. Of course, shout out to Spectre on the opposing team there, even though they took the L in game number 2, still at the top.
Yeah, here's a quick look at the overall, by the way. Again, technically, the only thing that matters is that number 2 next to Team Bravo. They're up by the name. That's going to be their record overall, as Team Alpha has yet to find a win yet on the map. Team Bravo has back-to-back victories in the only 2 maps played today. But also, look at the kill totals from the real Polska. I mean, that is unbelievable to have 517 between 4 players in 2 maps. They are dominating this map. They're dominating the performances here, and they dominated the open qualifiers too. This is the best team here thus far, at least on paper, and they're helping Team Bravo win it all. Let's take a quick look at where we're headed next though, Tiff, because it's time to change things up. We are headed to Cracked, and I love this map.
Look, it's going to be really interesting. It's one of those like classic Delta Force maps that came back. It's been in the game since like forever. We bring it here into Delta Force again, and for it to kick things off with the Delta Force Global League, it makes sense, especially closing out our map series. So I'm curious what kind of changes we're going to witness. Maybe we'll see a lot of the same operators coming through because a lot of our teams just feel comfortable, but it's all about divvying out the strategy, which quite frankly, Team Bravo has locked in.
They've locked it in. They're doing really well, and Team Bravo is going to be back on the defense. As a reminder, we're swapping each time. So anytime you're watching from the spectator POV, you're going to be able to see that the attackers are going to be in red. They're going to be the red teammates. They're going to be the red objective at the top. The defense is going to be in green. So Team Bravo, if you're a fan of them and what they've been able to do, they're going to be on defense this time around. Again, let's jump into our first look at Cracked in a little while. At least for me, I haven't seen Cracked in a while on broadcast. It's good to have it back and already getting into the swing of things.
Ooh, okay. Team Alpha here. You've got a lot of our teams from week 1 that are comprised of Team Alpha. Week 2 teams are Team Bravo. Team Bravo, the ones that have just kind of been leading the charge. The boys, Huptirik, 7th, Leva, full safe, and the real Polska Gurom. But Walker, a member of Team Alpha here on, well, TanoSSquaD, trying to make something happen right off the rip.
Yeah, I love what you called out when we were looking at that leaderboard as already, by the way, in trouble here for our attackers. So something going right for Team Alpha. But one thing you called out was you were talking about the most rescues, our top medic of the day being an individual reward. We were looking at the individual leaderboard from just that last map. Mr. Bunny TV had 81 rescues in just map number 2. Gotta be a front runner when the second highest I saw on the individual leaderboard was 50 across the board on either team. So somebody knows what they're doing, going for some side objectives. I think, unfortunately, that side objective of most rescues wasn't helping out his team to get wins yet, but individually playing for some extra cash.
And that's on like preserving your live tickets as well. Like if you're making sure that you're still doing that, that's crazy, especially on the attacking side of things. But our attack here, kind of working throughout. I love this.
Yeah.
It was a really quick showing for the attacking side of things, but to be expected there. On to Cracked. 4 seconds to go and some kills happening in the mid game, but that's totally fine.
Yeah, let me be very clear too. This is impressive. I mean, I think we all know that point A, Ashwita Village, unless you set up an immediate defense choke point on some of these spawn points for the attackers, point A is actually quite easy to grab in comparison. Point B1, B2 a little bit more difficult, and then C1, C2 going to be the last points on this map. And so keep that in mind. We are only going to C, and it's just C1 and C2. There's a couple nuanced things about Cracked if you haven't played it in a while. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But into B1, B2, you're going to get the temporary command HQ that you can see. They're kind of isolated, and then it's going to be the slums, that's B2, that you're looking to capture. And if you can capture both, obviously, you're going to be moving on to C, where things get a little bit more mixy. You can actually bring down one of those points with some guided missiles, but we'll see if we get there. One of my favorite parts about Cracked, obviously, Tiff, is that it's one of the OG kind of maps when you think about Delta Force. And it also has some of this street combat that is so reminiscent of like traditional warfare style sight lines that I think is really interesting and difficult to play on, frankly.
Well, hear me out. This is exactly what the boys were doing, specifically when it came to B1, B2. They were using all of these vehicles on the road and keeping that pressure straight ahead. Now, granted, we're on Team Bravo, so what we're doing right now is just looking for all of the attackers and completely eviscerating them, which has been fun because I was looking specifically at what vehicle they were going to be bringing in, and they were playing around with that GTQ, that new tank that has the 105mm multi-purpose rounds.
That's a good shot. There's a ton of different vehicles. Again, I always talk about this anytime we have a Delta Force broadcast because it's so unique. The attackers are already finding a foothold here for B1. Is you can customize vehicle loadouts in a tournament of this style, of this amount of sweat, this being esports. I think that's incredibly valuable based on what your knowledge is of the map, how you're going to address some of these points. So you see that our tank comes in with obviously some traditional shells, but also has some anti-infantry guns. You can even throw a flamethrower on some of your vehicles if you really want to. I mean, you can get real weird with it if you want. So it's fun to kind of see our players optimize their builds, not only with guns, but also with vehicles, as it is a massive part of this warfare chaos that we get to experience.
Mr. Bunny live here on main. Let's see, B2 trying to be captured. Unfortunate. Maybe some close quarters combat.
And again, this is our top medic, I believe, from map number 2 by a sizable margin. 81 rescues. 81. That is so many rescues. Really trying to keep the team alive. And I mean, it's a great effort. Unfortunately, you can see this is what they're going for. I mean, they're just keeping people up. Which, I mean, this time, you know, Mr. Bunny, this is actually going to be extremely valuable to his team, you know, for multiple reasons. But nice turn there from Vabatral. But being on the attacking side and being a medic, it's going to be a nice value add for your team to keep those lives from dwindling too aggressively.
We have taken objective Bravo 2.
All right. Still dancing around here in the courtyard. Just a flesh wound, pops up on the roofing. See, this is where I thought a lot of people were going to be making plays from, was trying to get the high ground. But what I'm loving is seeing people getting completely ripped apart the moment they try to make a play from that.
Yeah, consistent trading of blows here on Cracked. B1 and B2 is pretty normal. Similar to D1 and D2 on our Trench Lines map. It's a tug of war, and you just get to see who gets exhausted first.
Sheesh here. Grabs that bison in hand and looks to close the distance on the road. It's Alcatraz that's going to be in the tank on the main space. So keep an eye on that. He had found multiple just a couple minutes ago, but is still looking to wreak havoc. But Artek preaching around, has to put the boots on the ground.
Bravo 1 is ours.
Nice. Immediately through the courtyard. This pathing is important to stay healthy and catch anyone off guard before being sighted on out. Smoke before the cover, but they immediately are like, no, we're not going to allow you to just get situated here in the corner.
And again, B1 here is the temporary command HQ is quite a bit more easy for the attackers to capture, which is why they have it. And it's a little bit easier for them to hold as well, especially when you've got a vehicle that can get involved. The actual slums B2 position is going to be a lot more difficult rather for that vehicle to come into a massive amount of value for the team. I think you can still kind of shell players as they approach it, but It looks like our defense is trying to swing back to take back B1 rather than just forfeiting it and really setting up a defense on B2. I don't know that that's a mistake, especially when you see a player like Zerf go big on main stage. SMG 45 is gun of choice and most players' gun of choice. Got great range for an SMG. Still hits like a truck close range as well. Trading blows and almost getting a nice another win close range that he shouldn't have won. But,
that would have been criminal, but I love the propulsion straight forward. Kind of moving, turning and burn. Sometimes these players can get wild, and I love seeing the movement live here on main to just completely outmove your opponent. If someone comes at me like that, I'm just like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah, again, Viren's one of my favorite operators when I play operations and warfare just for that very reason. It's a massive boon to be able to move around the map and outplay your opponents in that way, so... But anyways, I think it's been fun to watch. Now, it looks like we've traded hands on points, which this is better for the attack, at least in my mind. I wouldn't call myself the, you know, irrefutable evidence or person that has all of the answers for what is right in the nature of warfare. B1 is just, frankly, on paper, easier to capture. And so when it comes to trading of points here for the defense to say, hey, we're going to have B1 instead of B2 and fully give up the slums, I think this might have been a mistake. But who knows? We'll see if that comes to fruition. They've traded out. Attackers have full control over the slums and are now moving back over to HQ because our defense is setting up every position that they can imaginable to either retake or just hold on to what they have.
Gonna get a little bit closer. On the reapproach, still more chaos.
Speed up the attack.
Down to 173 tickets here.
Yeah.
Which is fine because, I mean, granted, if we can get this around 125, 150, you go into C1, C2 with just under 300. It's kind of tough, but it's fine.
We've neutralized objective Bravo 1.
Continue trading of blows here, but quick look at Parfumier with Roach. Squad has been doing a great job today. Had some supporters in the chats. And they're cooking on point. B1 right now. Pretty impressive stuff from the squad. This is going to be that Huptirik squad I was talking about before. Oh, barely loses that gunfight. Swing back to the streets, though, as we're trying to protect and isolate and set up for these slums fights. It doesn't look like the attackers have really found a way to hold both of these points. It's very difficult to do on Cracked. I think we all know the defense on Cracked is at least on paper a bit easier, but this is coordinated esports. This is teams that are learning to work together, that qualified amongst the same qualifiers to form two different teams. And I think slowly but surely throughout the course of the day-to-day, they're going to figure out how to play together, how to assign roles, how to set up correctly, who's in charge. Things like that I think are going to be extremely valuable for these teams to find success. And yet again, our attack and defense have extremely volatile on exchanging points back and forth. You want B1? Fine, we'll give it to you. We're going to make sure that we have B2. Oh, you want B2? Let's swap back.
Nothing like a little back and forth, and honestly, it's wild to me that we're still going with SMGs at mid-range. So some of these fights do look like they're taking a bit longer, especially at a longer distance, but that's because we're prioritizing SMGs for the close range fights that we're witnessing inside the slum, inside the headquarters, and kind of just dabbling around. And for, you know, a couple other people, they focus on the vehicles. This is going to be those heavy hitting moments. If you can connect some well-coordinated shots, but make sure that vehicle stays hefty. So you've got the Alluru on the back line, investing a lot of these anti-personnel equipment as well, filtering it through past the courtyard. Doesn't necessarily connect, but what you do get is a shred of information before popping back into the vehicle and trying to wreak havoc.
Yeah, and much like the vehicle's skin that they have on it, cosmetics, that is Team RedWhite, who's playing kind of support here with the tank. Both teams have one. The defense is on the point, making sure that they do not lose because they were about to. Whereas the attacker tank is going to try to make sure that they're alive so they can at least play for C. But the problem is we're running out of lives. All of a sudden, to what was such a dynamic and aggressive push onto point A to take it immediately to the side of Team Alpha, who has yet to win a map, all of a sudden completely stagnated here, trading blows. And right now, the defense coming out on top of those fights.
Vehicle drop to designated location.
Team Bravo really just looking top form here today. Our week 2
Halfway through the battle.
teams that qualified all on Team Bravo. Have no fear though. Down to just remnants of our tickets for the attacking side of things, which makes me a little nervous. Something's got to come through.
Yeah, something's got to give. There's no question about it. This is that Spectre squad that we've been talking about. They're the top team for side of Team Alpha. Here's a nice push. Looks like we've got a respawn beacon right on this building that everybody's trying to spawn into to get into the mix for B2. Again, like the two big things we talk about with Warfare that are so valuable, and there's plenty more, but the two main ones, you've got to use your vehicles correctly. If they get exploded immediately, you've made a huge mistake. I mean, massive. And then second thing is making sure you use your respawn beacons correctly to not only help out your squad, but even the tactical strategic beacons you can put out for your entire team to respawn somewhere a lot closer. That strategic beacon that you're seeing right there, all units can be deployed at that location. That's what we're talking about. It totally changes some of these fights and how they're interacted with, where you just kind of trading blows and extracting lives as the attackers isn't going to net you a victory because the defense has this close by. But we're running out of runway here, Tiff.
We really are. If you're down to 15%, you've got to clutch it all up. So she's here, hitting a nice reset on the player in front of them, but only Spectre can do so much for the squad there on Team Alpha.
Yeah, you're talking about the SMG 45, obviously a great close range weapon. It's also pretty solid in the mid range. I actually really like this. I call it the QBQ, really strong weapon as well. SMG 45, those are probably the main two we've seen thus far. A couple Bisons as well, and then S12s. I mean, I like a good shotgun. I don't like it for this point as much unless you're playing down kind of in the alleyways. You have to at least have some people up on the rooftops with some mid-range action, and I think that's what's kind of punishing our attackers right now, is that they're getting cleaned up anytime they try to address with some of these players that are playing rooftops, because they have the high ground, they've got nice positioning to be able to look over multiple entry points and hold those choke points well.
Well, for now, when you have 16 tickets left, 15 now, it is just too little, too late. Defense has just really done a solid job of overpowering the initial onslaught.
Yeah, this is, folks, I mean this in the best way possible. They might get into a bit of overtime here potentially, but this is an utter domination from Team Bravo. They're likely going to win 3 maps in a row, and that's exactly what's just happened. We know Cracked is a tough one. It's a punishing map for the attack. If you can't carry your momentum forward from A into B, you're going to find yourself in a constant tug of war that you eventually just lose. And unfortunately, with not enough value from Team Alpha, that means that it's 3 up, 3 down from Team Bravo. They are going to be your winner today, regardless of how this next map goes. We are going to trade it and still play it, but Team Bravo are your champions, which is crazy to say after the, frankly, back and forth we saw in the first 2 maps. This team is the best team here. It's pretty self-evident, but there are a lot of side objectives, Tiff, for us to still be playing for on either side.
So do you think that we're going to see a lot of our teams kind of just focus on just getting that taken for them? I mean, as we look at some of the replays here from that Cracked game number 3, those objectives in particular, Most Slayer, the individual player with the most kills across all matches. MVP squad, the squad team of 4, the individual, is it going to be 7th, Leva, the boys, the real Polska, Gurom, whoever comes out on top from Team Bravo that has the highest score across all completed matches, because it has to be from the winning side. And then top medic, the individual player with the most rescues, which quite frankly, we have seen so many well-needed rescues, and we've seen some really nasty Byron clips live on main.
Yeah, that's right. And these replays were nice, but they kind of just continue to prove the point that the defense was just good enough. I kind of criticized them for continuing to give up B2 because it's such a harder point to actually capture in my mind, but it worked out perfectly for them. This trading of blows, the actual tug of war between these 2 points, was a flawless execution, just frankly because the attackers ran out of lives. They knew that they could do this dance of kind of delaying their opponents. There was a very small moment, I think there was a key moment looking back on those replays, about the actual tank usage. I think that our attackers' tank should have been much more aggressive, not at all times because you're just going to get blown up, but right when points were exchanging hands, you needed to swing on the one point that didn't have your attackers' bodies on it with the tank, cause chaos, and there could have been an opening for Team Alpha to get a win there, or at least get to points C1 and C2. A punishing map for the attackers, and unfortunately, they did get punished. Team Alpha has fallen. Team Bravo 3-0. Folks, we're going to take a very short break. We're going to score that match. There's still plenty of money exchanging hands with our side objectives. You're not going to want to miss this last map. I think it's going to get a little chaotic. We'll be right back in just a moment.
We're too late. Skynet has been destroyed.
No. Skynet's been upgraded.
Sawyer, what's going on?
Alexei! Come on, anyone, do you copy? Nox, confirm your position. The deal is clear. I'll help you remove your relink and escape Havoc. But first, you infiltrate the Skynet terminal and restore our comms. Respond immediately.
I'm in position. All clear.
Find the terminal. Or I will.
Welcome home. Nox. My unsuccessful admirals have has been astonishing. You are truly one of a kind. So resist.
Get out of my head!
Find him! Go!
Let's spread a little panic.
We've got you surrounded! Enemy over here!
What's your status? Have you found the terminal?
We've been set up. The server room's empty.
I was right. You're still the best. I knew you'd come back. But here's the truth. It's not Havoc that needs you. It's you that needs Havoc. We are the future.
No worries there. Good mix here for the individual squad.
That's a good shout.
The enemy
There.
Way through there onto D1.
We talked about respawn beacons. Luna's got a traditional respawn beacon, strategic beacon. How long can the defense hold and continue to pull? Eventually, you're going to get tired. This tug of war.
Tilia,
Well, folks, welcome back to the Delta Force Global League. It's Season 1, and it's the European Warfare Finals, and we've had a great day thus far. 3 up, 3 down for Team Bravo. Team Alpha, unfortunately, going to lose this one, but job's not done. One more map to go. If you're liking what you're seeing, or maybe you think, hey, I could have done better than that, make sure you go download Delta Force right now, and you can use that cross progression that comes with mobile, because mobile is out officially, and you can link your 2 accounts and progress your weapons. Maybe you saw something today you wanted to use and you don't have unlocked yet, you can do it from, I don't know, a train, or maybe as a passenger in a car. Somebody's driving you to work. I don't know what's going on, but you could play Delta Force anywhere at any time with mobile. You can see those down below: iOS App Store, Android, Google Play Store. And then of course, if you want to play on PC and get involved in maybe some more esports down the line, pretty easy to do so. Official launcher link right down below, as well as Epic Games Store and Steam. So excited about today, excited about Delta Force and everything that has to offer. I want to give you one more reminder to make sure to go follow that esports account I was talking about. This is a new thing that they're introducing. It's going to be DF Game Esports on X or Twitter at DF Game Esports. A lot going on in the Delta Force esports ecosystem as well. So you're going to want to get involved, so maybe you could play in this next time. Now, Tiff, I gotta bring you back into the booth with me, because we've got one more game for the European Warfare Finals. We know who the winners are, but we don't know all of the winners. We've got some side objectives that we're going to be taking a look at today. If we could, I'd love to throw that format up and you kind of walk me through the 3 main side objectives that we're going to be looking at before we get into this last map. It's there in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, so you've got the top Slayer, top medic, and the MVP squad that we are looking for. MVP squad is going to be the individual team of 4 that has the highest scores completed across all matches, but only on the winning side. So you know it's going to come from Team Bravo already. Will it be the real Polska Gurom? Will the boys step up in this last game, or will someone else come through? Could it be Huptirik, 7th Leva, or maybe even full safe? For top Slayer, top medic, those are going to be really interesting, right? Most Slayer, obviously the kills, the individual player with the most kills completed across all matches, and the top medic will be the individual player with the most rescues completed across all matches. Now, here's the deal. We saw a lot of those rescues throughout our first 3 games. We were already north of 100 for a couple players, so I'm not actually certain where that stands just yet, but our scoreboard from game 3 is right here. So start looking at the number of kills. Obviously, you can see Huptirik over there, 46. That's a pretty substantial number from game 6 alone, but does it move the mark?
Yeah, no, it's such a great shout. I mean, reminder, game 3 on Cracked was like a 10-minute game. I mean, it was so dang quick. So obviously you're not seeing insane value here, but for the amount of time they were on the map, Huptirik getting this many kills on the defensive side is insanely impressive. Our top rescues on the day for game 3, it looks like it's going to be Krazer, I believe, with 26 overall. They're in 3rd, also on full save. So it looks like a couple people were already prioritizing some of those side objectives, or maybe they were prioritizing the main objective and the side objectives just kind of came along with it, which I think is probably the case. So big congratulations again, Team Bravo, winning their 3rd map in a row and also securing some massive amount of kills and rescues. Let's take a look at our overall leaderboard though, because I think here are some of the most impressive stats on the day. Team Bravo, obviously on the right-hand side, 3 up, 3 down. But look at that. The real Polska got 517 overall in the kill category. So that squad as a total looking really strong. But reminder, Tiff, our top Slayer is an individual kill total. So then we turn our eyes to score for our MVP squad. And well, it's the real Polska right now. Now, job's not done. Full safe's not too far behind. But right now, our front runner is going to be the real Polska.
I know, so now you're going to see some like individual squad battles when it comes to Team Bravo as we move into our final match on Cracked. So keep eyes on real Polska Gurom and full safe for that to occur. About a 30,000 score differential between them. Now, obviously, we don't see the number of rescues throughout to see who to keep an eye on for top medic, but we were talking, you mentioned Mr. Bunny had a ton of them in some of the earlier games, and if I'm not mistaken, Krazer as well had a slew of them. So some people just that we can think of off the top of our heads to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think those two are our front runners from what I can tell, just mental math wise, which I think is pretty important. So watch out for Krazer, watch out for Mr. Bunny in this one. We're going to keep our eyes on both of them when it comes to the rescues category. Probably going to run Stinger in this one, especially now that side objectives are the main objective, because the main objective has been taken care of by our Team Bravo. So I would only imagine they're going to be running Stinger to make sure that they can race to the finish line to be top medic. And then obviously our top Slayers are going to come out of the woodwork too. And I think one of the things that you can remember too, Huptirik could be in that running there with full safe. Like, just because full safe's not the top of the leaderboard for their squad doesn't mean Huptirik isn't in the top of the leaderboard overall as an individual. So some individual rewards, some squad rewards, and a lot more coming down the line. But one more map to go. You saw it there for just a moment. We're headed back to Cracked, swapping sides, which means Team Bravo are now going to be your attackers. And that Team Bravo team dominating today. Truthfully, I think Real Polska being a leader in that, but everybody having a major role. I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of the kind of esports side of Warfare, Tiff. We've noticed there's kind of a very particular role for each of our teams. I mean, I'm even looking at the boys, who are a really, really strong squad. They've had a very specific role during this tournament, and they've done a really good job to make sure their team gets the win by playing a little bit more support, playing in the vehicles when they need to, and making sure the vehicles stay alive. That's been something that I've been most impressed with that team.
I think it just comes down to their adaptability and their willingness to kind of slot in to be whatever is needed for the overall success of the team, which I love for them. Right now, granted, they have been grinding for months on end since Delta Force has launched. They've kind of formed this squad together, and they really put in a lot of time to find a ton of success when it comes to this. Now, I know they were scrimming, they were practicing a lot on Cracked specifically, which is why when I was kind of noticing a lot of the vehicles on B1, B2, now granted, Bravo is on the defense side of things. So now we actually get to see them put into play what we had witnessed in their practice on the attacking side for the final game of the match. And will that match what we saw on their practice side of things now that we've got the entirety of Team Bravo locked in, or will they adapt to the overall needs of the team, like I was basically saying?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting point. Like, I think there's some ego there. We're going to the game 4, like, what if we just 4 up, 4 down this other team? Like, I think everybody's playing for side objectives, but there's probably a little, now what was the main goal is now the side goal of, hey, let's make sure we get another win. Let's get a win as the attackers on Cracked that would really kind of solidify our dominance as a squad. It's been really fun to watch EU Warfare Finals in season 1 of our Delta Force Global League. And a reminder for anybody maybe just tuning in as we move into the last map, all of these teams, they qualified to be here. They did it through online qualifiers, running through public matches, and they're made their way to the broadcast here. It's week 1 qualifiers versus week 2, and apparently week 2 reigns supreme. Team Bravo is the team to watch, but who is our individuals to watch in this one? Our final map of the day for the EU Warfare Finals is here, Tiff. I'm excited to get into it.
Oh, let's get into it right off the rip. I'm just so happy for Team Bravo and for Team Alpha, though. I just want to see you go for the side objectives. It's all a learning experience, considering this is still season 1 for Europe Warfare. There's a lot of things in the works, and to kind of see it all initially come down to an end here after this, I don't want to let it go.
Yeah, no, I know, but there's a lot more down the line. I've got maybe some teasers, some leaks about some things coming up.
Gosh. Okay.
Keep your ears open towards the end of the broadcast. We'll see. But for now, paying attention to a lot of our squads, including this one on your screen. Canyon doing a great job. Crazer doing a fantastic job getting rescues today. Q-Pitch was our top slayer in map 3 at the very least as the defense. But now as an attacker, let's see what they're able to do.
Love that we opened this up with a lot of our hack claws investing their data knife like straight through. Just kind of throwing them on out. Canyon getting taken out from afar. Now, mind you, remember what happened when Team Bravo was on defense and how quickly they were able to kind of take A, but the standstill that we got when we hit B1, B2. So what is that going to look like when we take Team Bravo and the onslaught? I just saw a respawn beacon getting completely annihilated there on that free cam, and Zerf here with the stinger. Self-healing, charging up through the buildings, looking for a nice passageway, but this boulder, sometimes climbing these boulders, more work than need be. Well, just be the mountain goat, my man. Get in there.
Yeah, this is an immediate capture of point A, as we saw in the last one. Only picking up about 44 lives from that. And this is where things get a little bit more difficult. As a reminder, Cracked only has A, B, and then C. So you don't have to go that far. It's just how difficult some of these points are to capture is the key problem. So we'll see what our attackers are able to do. Again, folks going for the individual rewards, squad rewards. And frankly, I think Alpha's fighting for at least to get a single win on broadcast, whereas Bravo is trying to say, nope, we're going to go 4 up, 4 down and really show you that we're the better team. It looks like the attackers have set up. Look at that. Guess who in the back of the tank? John DeBomb playing support, a man of the people.
Target down!
Whew. Are we even surprised? That's 100% everything they were doing and prepping to be done on this initial map for them on the offense. But for once, hey, this is one of the squads here that had put up a ton of numbers. Keep eyes on them for potentials here to maybe get some of those nice side objectives. That's kind of what I'm looking for when it comes to the real Polska, Gurom.
Speaking of side objectives, anytime I find myself in a tank and trying to actually play a strategic style with a tank like John DeBomb is right now, my side objective, which is, you know, harry the people on the point, the main objective is actually what matters, which is kill the other tank. I mean, we've got to get involved. You can see both tanks now fully split right now. John DeBomb still kind of harrying this point, and the defense's tank has backed all the way back up to B2 to make sure that they can secure it, as they've officially changed hands with B1 here just shortly, with John kind of being one of the main reasons for that.
And like I said at the top of the show, John was just talking about in general how they just wanted to do pretty good, right? They were like, we just want to find ourselves having this. I think they have excelled beyond pretty good. Or maybe it's the fact that we just have some really nice teams that came through week 2.
Yeah, then you know what? There's a lot of ways to die, and one of those ways is Preepwalker throwing a Vibrant charge and sticking it on your body. So a brutal way to go out there.
Thanks, Preep.
Yeah, shout out to Preep, a fantastic player. He's been crushing it all day today, unfortunately. You know, maybe not doing it as well as he would have loved to do, but still a great day in the office playing on main stage right now.
Objective Bravo 2.
All right, there's another rescue. Let's go Zerf. Get the most out of Stinger here. I feel like we're just gonna see people running around performing life alert for these players. Like, just like, hey, I've got you. A side objective is exactly what I need. But for now, Chaos straight on to B1. I love seeing everything just crush down around the temporary command HQ.
I love how right as B1 gets captured, the defense kind of maintains position on it. They've given up B2. One lone defender goes sprinting at B2 from B1. I couldn't tell who it was, but I love you. You know exactly what you're doing. You are running for that point to know, and we've got to take back both. We've got to defend them all. And it looks like some of our players at Sway's squad, we've been talking about this team for a little while with Preepwalker, trying to take down John DeBomb.
You know what, Sway? Respect. Respect with the pistols at distance. Why not? Just have some fun at this point.
I'm sure having a blast. B2 in jeopardy. Shotgun in hand. I'm a big shotgun player. Unfortunately, we got to get a little bit closer this time around. Defense seemingly doing pretty well here. Again, I think B1, B2 are really difficult to break through as they attack, and it's not even really the main objective anymore. So keep our eyes out for Stinger operators. Doesn't look like this squad is focused on that at all. Preepwalker now and Viren, as we had mentioned before, just trying to knock people down, throw charges into their face, and potentially get this vehicle out of here. And I don't think this tank is going anywhere.
No, because it's John DeBomb taking down Preepwalker yet again. That's what's the tough part, right? He was going up there looking to pick off some of the attacking side of things, but could not get it through. John DeBomb from the boys is just running it amok on the perimeter.
Yeah, I think the safety measure that...
See?
Yeah, you know, let me be very clear. You know, sprinting at a tank doesn't usually work. I mean, at some level, you're like, what else can you do? And I'm like, I think you pull out a rocket launcher, peek a corner, and then try to take the shot, rather than vaulting over the wall and getting obliterated because of it. But maybe some teammates were trying to play the flank, and you were just being the distraction. I don't know. That's a tough one. John is perfect execution of the tank. It's not that hard, but what he is able to do to keep it alive is the most impressive thing, and that comes down to that entire team, by the way. We've been talking about the boys a lot today for a good reason. They've got great strategy around vehicles of making sure that you're constantly running engineers in the vehicle with you that can pop out, heal, and then pop back in for cover. It's nearly a flawless strategy as long as you can keep them off of the tank. So if you gotta hop out and actually shoot too, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Finally, trying to see someone going through, ripping the tank apart, but gets caught out in the process. Maybe we could get some initial damage, but the issue is the boys usually have at least one engineer, but look, they've got two on their team to make sure that we are keeping those vehicles up and ready to go.
Yeah, they're technically called magnetic bombs. Perfect for vehicles. I mean, they literally just magnetically attach to anything that they hit. And it's a great way to take down some vehicles. You're going to need a lot more than just one attaching to it, though. And hopefully you can coordinate with your team to be able to do so. But defense, even still, after both of these tanks are problematic, still holding on to both objectives.
All right, Zerf. Kind of pulling through on here. Another rescue live here on main. Down to 200-ish lives. Oh, in a close range battle that I wasn't expecting to just kind of go that route.
Let's see what Huptirik can do here. So far, so good. Trying to figure out how do we address this point, and how do we take both of these at the same time. That's obviously the most difficult piece of trying to capture B1 and B2 at the same time. Is they're so separated. They're separated sight lines as well, so you can't really kind of watch over, have some sort of like overarching POV from one to the other too much. And well, there's a tank, so you know, figure it out. I don't know if we're changing up operators or what. Maybe like 6 Virons at the same time. If this tank gets on the point, that is your opportunity to strike, though. Survivability is the problem, not just the firepower.
Oh, Vabatrow. Can we clean this one out? I thought you were going to be able to get that, but passing like ships in the night through the smoke.
Good grief.
Still getting chowed.
Berserker goes on a spree there in the kill feed. But Shashith trying to play around. Looks like B1 here. Continual exchanging of blows has turned into an exchanging of points as well. B1 being captured by the defense. B2 changing hands to the attackers. But great job so far from Team Alpha, frankly. You know, we haven't seen them defend well in a while. Or maybe even yet this tourney, besides maybe I'm thinking about Trench Lines Point C. But even still, this is a full shutdown of your attackers. This is how Team Bravo won last map. It's just, hey, if they take one, let's take the other. Let's keep exchanging blows until they run out of lives. It's working. The problem is what you're witnessing right now. A tank on the point, on a tank on both points. This is your opportunity to strike. You got to take this tank out or you are toast.
I was curious if that would be the end-all be-all, right? You're using artillery barrages, you have 2 vehicles, and I think splitting them equally on B1 and B2 is going to be the key for success. When Huptirik here, just out in the courtyard, trying to hold it down and just get everyone away from them. But is it too little too late?
Too little too late indeed. And it was a flawless... Look how close B2 was. So close to being able to move into point C. Team Alpha making a massive push with both tanks to be able to secure both points. Somehow, some way, the defense was barely able to creep back onto that point and save it just in the nick of time. Let's see if they can continue to maintain it. It's not looking like so. A massive push from the attack. That should do it. Bang, 265 lives moving into points C1 and C2. Good luck, gentlemen. Good luck, Team Alpha. It's time to step up. Time to get your first win.
That was a huge hold for sure. Seeing a lot of these pickups here. Constantly hitting the rescues. Mind you, side objectives in play here. Swarm for swarm. And we're just kind of situating where we want to be for Team Bravo. The vehicles, where do we want to kind of set these up for C1, C2? So for, especially in the office area, C1 for military supply stash, you want to break down the walls at C1. You need to crush it because you know that those people are going to look to get those vehicles and break down that building.
Yeah, it's a good shout. That hangar is an interesting point for several reasons. One of those is that, well, if our attackers have enough guided missiles, you can just blow that point to smithereens, which makes your job quite a bit more easy. I'll be curious to see what strategy they go for here. But C1 and C2 already in jeopardy from the side of the attackers as yet again, tanks reign supreme. Finally, you can see off into the distance there behind C2, a tank for the defending side. This could even the tally a bit. It's got to get involved. It's got to get active on the attacker's tank. It's got to prioritize that or they're going to lose this game.
But man, once the defense gets situated up in here, it can be tough to pull on out. So keep an eye on our attacking side of things and see what they can break down. A lot of utility is going to be used here, but for Zerf, trying to hold this doorway out through the swarm, out through everything, through the smokes, and just trying to hip fire and take people down. There goes the therapeutic pistol for a bit of a self-heal, and finds two.
Great play from Zerf. Here's a quick look at the overhead POV of C1. You can see that hangar, that military supply stash going to the side of the attackers. They are not stopping. Already on C2, neutralizing it. This could be a victory here from Team Bravo to make it actually 4 up, 4 down, a full clean sweep. Here comes, it looks like the defense, a last-ditch effort to get involved, and they might be able to kind of stave off this attack, at least for a moment. We have so many lives on the attacker side that it is looking very, very grim for the defense.
Well, TanoSSquaD on your screen here, on board with K Centaurus, who's just trying to get a hold of things. Good, getting some vehicles in, maybe to combat some of Team Bravo's utility that they're bringing in via the vehicles, but Merliva here.
Utter chaos. It is utter chaos on C2 here, Tiff.
I'm worried for him, but it's okay because we're seeing Mr. Bunny hitting the more rescues. Now, mind you, remember, side objectives, Mr. Bunny.
This guy's going for the cash. I respect it. And I think, again, he was one of our top 3 medics on the day thus far. And talk about some vehicle warfare. Hey, we called upon both to attack each other, and finally the defense is going to win out on one. But our first guided missile of Cracked landing where? C2, and gets absolutely nothing for it.
Kind of unfortunate, but we bounce on back. Real Polska Gurom. This is one of the squads that was a real standout performer for the first 3 initial games. Could be potential for MVP squad based on game 4 here on your screen. Love that they're just getting into the action, especially alongside the boys.
Charlie 1.
An immediate take back of the hangar. C1 fully captured by the attack. How do you address C2 though? Now that you've lost your tank, I think John the Bomb finally was taken out. Gonna have quite a bit less firepower to deal with. It looks like a couple artillery strikes landing on both points, at least keeping a few folks off of it. See, nice attacker push from both sides, basically taking C1 as their base of operations and then creating an entire sweeping wave line of enemy combatants to push onto not only point C2, but also push the left-hand side where you're going to see a lot of folks spawning for the defense. This could be a pretty nice play from them.
Strategic beacon deployed.
It's looking like it's beginning to work. They've got more numbers on C2 currently. Are about to start taking it. I really like this Hat Claw operator. Throwing knives are very fun to watch.
Yeah, I love that they just invest the data knives right off the rip, but we'll see how this goes. Still north of 150 and a point for a point. Just trying to connect, get that initial damage out, and then you've got a neighboring Hat Claw that throws out the swarm. So to the free cam we go to see the setups here. C2, nothing like pushing the vehicle straight into the alleyways just on the outskirts of the office area. But it looks like we may be looking for a regroup here, especially with that vehicle being less than 50% HP.
Yeah, vehicles, you know, don't matter when you just have 50 people on the point, and they've completely changed points again. You saw the basically entire defense set up on C1. They're exchanging hands here. Now, what's interesting, I want to call this out again, because I think this is going to be their win condition. This could be the way they win, is capture C2, and then if they have enough guided missiles to hold on to, they could drop missiles on C1, blow it to smithereens, and win the game that way. So it is something to keep in mind. I think it's quite difficult based on the score lines we're seeing in Cracked right now. They still have 144 lives. It is possible to be able to do it that way. Now, here's a couple, magnetic bombs are close, but not going to be able to take the vehicle out in entirety. These streets are brutal for our players who try to cross right now. Both teams.
Berserker getting away just in the nick of time to let that health regain start coming through and really doing a nice job of staying behind cover and for these engagements. But smoke is your best friend when trying to anchor off some of these line of sights, and it's just really making things difficult here for Berserker.
see the attack is kind of coming around the backside of C1 to try to push in through the back doors of this hangar, of this supply stash. And yet again, our vehicle rolls up and says, how do you do? Oh, you don't have an AT4 yet in your hands? Oh, you do have an AT4 in your hands? Too bad. You're not going to be able to use it. Somebody was hiding in a tire there. Just tried to stay up and let that thing drive away so we could shoot it in the back. We'll see if that ends up paying off, but an absolute menace in the car right now.
Dude, nice defense still regardless coming in from Team Alpha here. Definitely keeping things on a stalemate kind of thing. Ooh, Zerf getting blown up. Mate Skyart respawning back on in.
Vehicle dropped to designated location.
Hey, friend. Back on your feet.
Yeah, I can't even blink before all of a sudden an absolute massive barrage from some of these vehicles comes in, and these players are just completely lost in the smoke here. This is the problem. When you are trying to defend or attack Cracked, you've got to have sight lines, and oftentimes you have none. Artillery strikes coming in as well. It looks like John DeBomb's back in a vehicle. Alcatraz in a vehicle as well. Those are the two to watch out for to see how much value they can get out of their vehicles. Alcatraz has been a menace throughout the course of this map, keeping their dreams of getting a map win alive.
Ooh. Not when you just run down a one-way and see a multitude of enemy players and trying to go big, finds a couple. Can they get another one? Backs on down in, uses the utility to try and help kind of pepper that person, but here comes the reach out. Gets a little windy, but it's fine. We get it, but the trade comes through on the other side.
Here we go. Look at our capture points, our attacks. They've got the value. They've got the numbers. They've got the tanks. Whatever you have in your inventory, whatever you have at your hands, all it takes is a little bit of muscle and a lot of skill, and it looks like Team Bravo had both. Team Bravo are your champions today, regardless of that last map. But with that last map, they have a clean sweep. 4 up, 4 down, 4-0 on the day. They have yet to lose, and they will not lose the entirety of this Global League competition here in the EU Warfare Finals. Big congratulations to everybody on Team Bravo. You've just won $4,000 for your team, and some individual rewards potentially going your way as well. We'll see where those all land. But Tiff, what a dominant performance from Team Bravo, and frankly, really impressive stuff to be able to win not only every single map, but even win on attack, on Cracked, which is traditionally a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, just the way they were able to adapt and push through and stick to everything that they had practiced leading up to this, not only in their individual squads, but coming together as a team of 20 from different backgrounds, different languages, different countries all throughout Europe to be able to secure the win 4 for 4 is impressive. As we get to look through some of these replays, you've got to shout out Real Polska, Gurom, Full Safe, 7th Leva, Huptirik, and the boys for just taking 4 for 4. So impressive.
Yeah, did a great job. And here's a quick look back on some of those replays from this last map. Cracked was a fun one. It's good to see kind of an OG map back into the mix here for Warfare. And frankly, these first 2 points, B1 and B2, were very difficult for both teams, and they always are. This is a very difficult point to break through just because of the way these sight lines work and the way you have to try to get onto these points, especially with all the explosives, artillery strikes, and everything in between, to be able to take down either of these points. They're so concentrated, and there's really nowhere to hide around B1. Can be quite difficult. And then of course B2, buildings all around, but very enclosed spaces, so even easier. But it truly was the battle of the tanks. How do you take care of them? How do you utilize them effectively? And how do you keep them alive? And that's what we saw from the likes of John the Bomb, of course, Alcatraz, another one that did a great job using vehicles correctly and able to keep them alive with the engineer operator. Couple guided missiles didn't quite land where we wanted them to, but even still, it was Team Bravo on top, and a ton of rescues coming in from Team Bravo to make sure they had plenty of lives to take all the points.
As bad as we're going through these replays, I'm looking for side objectives. I'm looking for the most rescues, knowing that we had a couple of players that were already, lo and behold, so far in advance. But Kanik here with Roach is outside trying to make a play, make it happen, but then you see the vehicles down the road swarming in and out of all the artillery that's coming through. Just so mission critical to the success here on that final game of Cracked.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of our players pop into our Twitch chat, and very well played from everybody. Obviously, a great day for Team Bravo, our Week 2 qualifying team. Seemingly had the upper hand today, and frankly, on the back of just about everybody. It really felt like a true team effort, and that's one of the things that we talked about at the top of the broadcast that I was excited to see. Is you mentioned it right before those replays. These teams, these squads come from a number of different countries all across Europe, and the question is, how do they come together, make a coherent kind of 20-person squad or 20-person side, and then get a win? And I think delineating some of those roles early, whether that was natural or verbalized, worked flawlessly for them. I think I'm looking at the boys, for instance, kind of playing a little bit more support, not as worried about getting the maximum amount of kills for their team or anything like that, just trying to keep their team up and get the win every single time by using vehicles correctly, playing with the engineers, keeping things alive, and just doing the right things at the right time. And then you look at a team like the Polska. Polska, they were the top fraggers likely today as a squad. They were likely our top scorers. We don't know that for sure, but they were dominating on the front lines, not only with SMGs, shotguns, or everything in between, but just raw slaying power was unbelievable. They were kind of your front men. They kind of went in at every point they needed to capture and were farming not only on getting kills, but getting kills on the objective, which was a ton of value for their squad. So something to keep an eye out for when we look at that leaderboard is kind of how those roles are delineated, where everybody fell, and how they were able to execute at such a high level. So very fun to watch, but congratulations to both teams. You both made it here, and you're at least walking away with something across the board throughout the course of this Global League Finals. Just through the qualifiers, you'll make some money, but of course, Team Bravo making a sizable chunk of change today, Tiff.
I know, you were already talking about it. I love it. We're delineating the money for the winning team all throughout the 20 players. And then, of course, you have that kind of cash bonus for the side objectives that we've been talking about. And as those scores do get populated, we get to find out who actually is leading the charge. You mentioned it, Polska Gurom, after the 3 games, was pretty much at the top. However, it was about 32,000 differential. I believe Full Safe was up there in terms of score as well, with the boys in 3rd place moving into map number 4. Now, there's a ton of different ways to get scores. You don't have to actually be the hero, but I love that with Team Bravo, it wasn't like all of our squads went in and were like, I want to be the hero player. I want to be the main star of the Delta Force Global League Europe Warfare right off the rip. It was, they knew how to be humble and kind of assign themselves in different roles. And I think that allowed them to find a ton of success.
Yeah, and I liked our scoring system on this one too, just because it meant that players didn't have to go for it. It was an extra boon, but the scoring for the day was just getting wins. I think I saw John the Bomb in our Twitch chat literally say John the Tank, and you're right.
Yes.
I mean, that's exactly what happened, so very well done from you. But I do believe we are grabbing an interview with one of our players from what is our winning side. We know that Team Bravo is our winning side. The calculations we're doing right now, though, well, it's a little bit different. We're working on those individual rewards. So as a quick reminder, we want to run back through those again. Our side objectives for the day, we were looking for top individual slayer. This is the top player with the most kills across the course of all 4 games. Then we're looking for our top medic, which is our top individual player with the most rescues throughout the course of the day. Again, we were seeing people put up 50 to 80 or so in a single game, so I'm sure those tallies are going to be pretty high for those that prioritized it. Not everybody did. And then finally, our top squad. So this will be the team of 4 that has the highest score. It's going to be our MVP squad of the day, our top team. See what they're able to do for either Alpha or Bravo. Technically, could potentially win that. I assume it's going to be on that Bravo side, and I think we might know who it is, but we've got to do the math to check, because like Tiff said, it was about a 30K disparity between the top 2 teams on the side of Bravo, and depending how that last game went, things could have evened out a bit more, or that gap could have been widened. Now, before we get to all of those scores and reveal the extra prizes we had today, we have an interview with a player from the side of the winning team. The winning side, it was, of course, Team Bravo. Let's see who we're bringing in here in the booth. I believe we're bringing in a player from the boys. One of our top players, and it is Tilia out here in the booth with us and dressed for the occasion. Tilia, how you doing today? Tell people where you're at right now, and also tell us how you're feeling after a nice win.
Hello, everybody. I'm doing great. I'm very sweaty. This is very, very warm, not gonna lie. And the games were even sweatier than I am. So I am very hyped, very shaky, and very warm. But otherwise, I'm very good, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Great.
So much better now. Look, hear me out. I want to tell you, Tilia, before I ask you a question. I too have a unicorn onesie in my closet. I'm really sad that I'm not wearing it right now because I feel like we could have twinned, but I do want to get back to some things, okay? What was your preparation like coming into today's Delta Force Global League Europe Warfare? Did you have some crazy strats? Because I know you guys were practicing a lot in the vehicles specifically for Cracked, and I saw it come through.
Yeah, exactly. We've been doing a lot of things basically for the last couple of weeks, especially for the qualifier as well, where we've been trying different things and trying different strats. But I think what we ended up ultimately going for was that we were watching what the other people were doing and trying to basically counter that or find some way to balance it out. Because we noticed that every team has a very different play style and what they're really good at. Some are really heavy vehicle players, some are really good infantry, some are really good with other things. So I think we had almost ended up just looking and mimicking what the other team was doing and trying to counter it. I think that was our end strategy, actually.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually a great shout. You know, I was wondering, because this is kind of season 1 of Delta Force's Global League. I was kind of wondering how intensive some of the strategies were going to be. And that seemingly was one of them, was truthfully watching the other teams and counteracting what they did. Very well done from you guys. Well, talk to me about your team. Your team was obviously very well comprised of different skill sets and worked together very well. Talk to me about where you guys met. How do you know each other? How did you form this squad that obviously dominated in the qualifiers and did really well to make it here, but then also here on main stage dominated today and got the wins?
That is actually quite a funny story because I started streaming quite recently. I started streaming maybe 3 months ago when I started with Delta Force. And I was looking for drops one day, and I specifically, since I'm a Warfare player, I wanted to watch a Warfare streamer. And I found Yellow Love FPS, which was a Warfare streamer and had the drops active. So I popped into his channel when I was in the office working to get the drops, and we started talking. Then we started playing together, and it ended up with me streaming with him. And then we just branched out, and we found John the Bomb, and we found Be Quiet, and we just talking about for fun that we were streaming together, playing together. We're just having fun, both on stream and off stream. But one day when the tournament came up, it was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it for fun. Like, it's going to be something fun for us to do together and see how it works. So we actually did some try games together to see how we vibe together. And we noticed quite quickly that we actually fitted very well together. We had similar play styles that literally worked together. But also on a personal level, we really vibed. We really had a lot of fun. And then we also noticed that we actually played very well together as well. So it was, that's basically how we met. So I never met these guys ever. We have one guy, me in Stockholm. We have one guy in Tallinn, Estonia. We have one guy in Ireland, Dublin. And we have one guy in Kyiv in Ukraine. We never met. We met through Delta Force and through streaming.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been really fun.
Wow.
I think that's like the coolest part of the fact that it's a Delta Force Global League in Europe as well, and the communities that come together. But I need to know now, since you've already won here on the main stage today, clearly you guys are doing pretty well, like you said. What is next for you and the crew? We going back to creating content? We looking for more esports dubs? What's next?
Yeah, so I think we're actually going to keep this going. Since we are vibing so much together, I think we're actually going to keep going. So me and the boys, shout out to the boys. I think we're going to keep going and see where this can take us. We're maybe talking about doing a stream team together and see if we can keep going and play more Delta Force. Of course, that's what we do. So we want like to shout out more Warfare streams and just go and have fun with the community. We play with all of our community all the time. So I think we're going to keep going and hope we can see some more esports in the Warfare section as well in the future for us.
I love it. You have been an absolute pleasure in the booth, Tilly. And I want you to shout yourself out. Tell people where they can find you. You're a streamer. Not all esports players are. You guys are esports players at this point and also streamers, which is very, very cool. So shout yourself out, shout your team out, where people can find you guys if you're making that stream team. And then I'll let you go celebrate with your team.
Thank you so much. So you can find me on Twitch. I am Tilia Vimine on Twitch. And you also go follow John the Bomb, Be Quiet, and Yellow FPS. If you find one of our channels, you will find all of us because we co-stream on Twitch. So you can see all of us if you find us. So please go shout us out on all social media and everywhere. Just come in. And if you want to play with us, get some gun codes, whatever, just join and have fun with the party, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Heck yeah, Tilia, I appreciate you a ton. The boys, one of the teams that made this Alpha squad, unfortunately have a tough time on the map. Team Bravo are winners today, and the boys a big part of that. So very well done from the boys. A pleasure having Tilia in the booth. I was not expecting the unicorn costume in an esports competition. Apparently, it worked out great, Tiff. That was very, very cool, and obviously great personality here in the booth.
Honestly, it's really cool to see just how excited they are about Delta Force, about creating their crew, finding their team, and then finding success with that team that you've had so much fun playing alongside. And maybe that is the difference maker, right? Coming together from all different areas of Europe and just being like, I genuinely enjoy playing Delta Force Warfare with you and having a good time. And they were just like, hey, we want to see what is that going to look like when we dive into the esports side of things. Because mind you, like he said, hey, we're still looking to find more Warfare players. And if you guys saw the weapons they were using today, you liked the loadouts. You heard what he said, right? There's codes for the weapons in there. Go get them.
I like John the Bomb renaming himself John the Tank. Now we got some scores to take a look at here from our last match, and let's take a quick look at it because they are extremely important for some of our side objectives, and a lot of the same. Look at that. Team Alpha, yes, they lost quite a bit today, but Team Spectre, that squad is on top. You can see Heisen, our top player from Team Alpha, by a pretty sizable margin when it comes to scores at 26K overall. 40 kills on that last map. You can see Berserker there at 51 kills overall from Team Alpha, but it was Team Bravo with the victory. And I'm gonna be honest, the boys might have been playing support, but Yellow Love fragging out in that map. Yes, 6 overall in score, 71 kills. Come on, man. In esports competition with the boys, very well done. And obviously full safe up top with the most scores. So I think this could be pretty close on some of our individual rewards here, Tiff. Let's take a look at our overall, which will reveal a lot for us. Squads of the day, and wow, Spectre really did put up a good fight for not winning a map. They did have 325k, but Tiff, real Polska, 380k.
Look, we were looking for the MVP squad on the winning side that had the highest score, and with 744 kills, 380,000, that is massive for the real Polska Gurom. So cannot wait to see what that looks like for them. Congratulations on being the MVP squad. Now, granted, not is that only covering the MVP squad. We still have more side objectives. We still have more.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, at the very top, by about a 30-point spread, 30k point spread rather on the score, is real Polska, 380,000 between 4 maps. That's pretty ridiculous when you start doing the math on that. Just under, obviously, 100k on average between the squad through 4, and some of those maps were quite quick. So very cool to see them on top, full safe, not too far behind. But we also have our top individual slayer. Who is it? It is Berserker, actually, with 220 kills between 4 maps. What a day for Berserker. This is actually very impressive. This is from that DB squad, that dual squad with Epic, Insero, and Zaltis. It seems like this was their entry, man, and it paid off. Good grief. Dominating our leaderboard. You see a couple folks close by. John DeBomb finding his way onto this leaderboard using the tank in top 5 position overall between all 40 players. Relax there in second. But Vabatrao, I expected to be top 5 as well, and you find them 3. But huge congratulations to Berserker winning some extra cash as top slayer. And Tiv, talking about top medic, who is it?
Oh, it's Mr. Bunny right there, locking in with 180 rescues. Wow. Crazer, a nice close second there, but that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, Mr. Bunny was just running around as Stinger for the large majority of our games, just kind of consistently hitting those reses. Now, that individual squad is going to be 7th Leva, and it's important, right? Because if this is coming in from Team Bravo and you're locking in the majority of rescues, this could be the major game changer of why they were able to preserve a lot of their tickets on the attacking side of things.
Yeah, 7th Leva did a really good job today, not in terms of necessarily top scoring, but they still were a huge piece to the component of Team Bravo. And you're right, Mr. Bunny, a major piece to that equation, winning extra $300. Here's a look at that pricing. All the people we just mentioned, everybody that was a part of Team Bravo winning some cash today, a total of $4,000 going to the winning side. And then our MVP squad winning $500 for the team of 4. So congratulations to the real Polska. And then most kills, Berserker and most rescues, Mr. Bunny, both winning $300 a piece for being top individual in those categories out of our 40 players today. Huge congrats to all of our winners today. This is our very first tournament of Season 1 for the Delta Force Global League. These are our very first winners here with the European Warfare competition, the finals. After all of the in-game qualifiers that we saw, the online qualifiers, to get to this point and then dominate on main. Very, very cool stuff from all of our potentially brand new esports players or esports players that have migrated over this brand new esport of Delta Force. Tiff, it was great having you back in the booth with me as per the usual, and I think I might be seeing you a little bit later today, but any final words for the broadcast today for our EU Warfare finalists and all of the audience watching?
It was really impressive. I just love seeing the community come together and throw down for Team Bravo, who went 4 for 4, brilliant. But for all the individual squads that were comprised up there of Team Alpha, don't let this deter you. Keep on working, keep on grinding, and keep on playing for the future, because God only knows what we're going to witness here when it comes to the esports side of things and the chaos that comes alongside of it. And for those of you that we may be seeing later on a different side of the world here, maybe towards the Americas, learn from what you saw in Europe, because I think the biggest thing when we were talking to Tilia in that individual interview is that they were looking to see what happened on the online qualifiers, how we could counteract that, how we could adapt to that, and I think it's going to be a lot of the same later on.
Well, Tiff, not only kind words and exciting words, but also words of wisdom. I love that from you. Tiff, we'll see you a little bit later today. Thanks for popping into the broadcast and casting with me. I appreciate it. You're a vibe as always. Folks at home, shout out to Spider Tiff, but also shout out to you for watching. What a day here in the booth with Delta Force. As per the usual, Delta Force broadcasts go crazy, but esports is a totally different animal, and I had a ton of fun today. A couple quick reminders before I send you out of here. If you haven't downloaded Delta Force, I don't know what you're doing. You want to get involved in events like this or a lot more out there? Yeah, go get your hands on the game. It's a ton of fun. Warfare, operations, everything in between. Delta Force has a ton of things to offer. One of those things is obviously a link right below me that you can go download the game, but also Epic Games Store, Steam, and mobile is out, and it's cross progression. If you haven't downloaded mobile, if you're a PC player and you haven't downloaded mobile, there's literally no reason not to. You could play on your coffee break and still progress your weapons advancement or earn more cosmetics for your account. It is cross progression. It's very, very cool. Another quick reminder to drop a follow wherever you are watching this broadcast today. It's really important because we've got a lot more broadcasts coming up later today and tomorrow. I'll talk about in just a moment. But also, Delta Force has a brand new esports Twitter account. And if you're going over to X or Twitter, just go follow DF Game Esports. DF Game Esports on Twitter. X is a great place to keep updated on specifically these types of competitions. And of course, as per the usual, I gotta remind you to jump into that Discord, because great things in that Discord with ways to get involved in events, but also ways to find maybe some new friends, new other players, just like Tilly was talking about. Find people that like the game, find common interests, and make some friends playing Delta Force. Final reminder here is that yes, Twitch drops have been active all day today on our main broadcast and some streamers broadcasts out there. Make sure you redeem these. Big thing, you got to have your Delta Force account attached to your Twitch account. You can do that in your settings. It's pretty easy to do, but just by watching, you're going to earn gear tickets if you're a fan of operations, armament packs, vouchers, skins, everything in between. You want to make sure you redeem these. Trust me, I've already done it because I've been watching every single broadcast, and it rocks. So get involved with these rewards as fast as possible. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in. It has been a great day with our first show of esports. We're not even close to being done today. We're done for now, but later today, 7 p.m. Central Time for those that are over here in the US, that's 5 p.m. Pacific. You're going to see another Warfare Finals, this time in North America. Same, not same place. It is the same place, not the same time. Definitely tune in for that. It's going to be a lot more chaotic action. John the Tank won't be there, but maybe somebody else is going to don that name and show us what they have, folks. We couldn't do it without you, the viewer. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you tune in here in just a couple hours for our next esports competition. Play a bit of defense back on the point that we just captured, so it's not a constant back and forth. They were like, yeah.
I mean, we've definitely seen this be a stalemate, and I know a lot of our teams were talking.
But do you know about the 36 other indicators that pop for the attackers? The defense has set up.
When it comes to just kind of maintaining this, but spending some time with Tilia here in a rogue vehicle, stuffing themselves through the bunker.
That's what I was talking about. I mean, C's almost already gone. It's just it's so close to be. Ones are going to be everything for this game, and well, that'll do seeing a lot of value. Here comes the guided missile. Where is it?
Air support, and it's a squad who called in the last guided missile.
On to the point ASAP.
Sometimes you just gotta thrive in that chaos, and with this close range thing going to go the way, but you know what it does give you? I wasn't expecting that, actually, especially when they had the initial shots out, but wasn't it just kind of...
Warfare Finals off with a 2-0 lead with 2 matches to go.
Line forward. Little ring around the rosy, a 1v2 option here, picks up one.
Getting chased down by the attacking tank. Unbelievable.
Free cam here to see the exact point of contention.
Nice.
Hicks.
I mean, this is actually going to be extremely valuable for his team. Almost getting another win in close range that he shouldn't have won. But
Down to just remnants of our tickets.
fine. But we're running out of runway here, Tiff.
We really are. If you're down to 15% and prepping to be done on this initial map for them on the
I might
offense.
find myself in a tank and trying to actually play a strategic style with a tank. Maybe not doing it as well as he would have loved to do, but still, there's Sway's squad. We've been talking about this team for a little while with Creepwalker. Trying that hard, but what he is able to do to keep it alive is the most impressive thing. Irons at the same time. If this tank gets on the point, that is your opportunity to strike, though. This is a full shutdown of your attackers. This is how Team Bravo
is going to be the key for success. When Cupody here just out through the swarm, out through everything, through the smokes, and just trying to hip fire and take people down.
of Cracked landing where? C2.
The squads that was a real standout performer for the first 3 initial games could be potential for.
Now that you've lost your tank, I think John the Bomb finally was taken out. When you are trying to defend or attack Cracked, you've got to have sight lines, and oftentimes you have none. Artillery strike.